ask why they would shoot the Raddus first. I'm pretty sure I told you about this, but like the conversation went on, and basically he argued the reason they wouldn't have shot the Raddus first when they arrived was because they wouldn't know how many life forms are on the Raddus because life form scanners only work on small pods, as proven by A New Hope.
That what? It doesn't make any sense.
It's it makes me feel like I just want to slam my head into a brick wall. It's like, no, all they established in A New Hope is that they can scan ships for life. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only reason why C-3PO and R2-D2 were able to go down to the planet. But
Yeah, and I would actually argue it wasn't even a great reason because, like, a lot of people say, like, why wouldn't they stop it anyway? Like, when they're looking for something very specific and then a life pod ejects, that's probably something you should just go catch in case.
yeah, I can't imagine there's too many escape pods that just like accidentally fire.
Yeah.
Huh, man, Last Jedi, Star Wars, it all sucks. I just can't
This is
care about it
this is the thing,
anymore.
man. It's really hard to find the good in the film at all. You know, because I don't care about sort of the superficial stuff. Like everyone always barks about the visuals. I'm just like, I cannot take the visuals in any way, shape, or form when the story has already killed my interest in it entirely.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to go out of your way to find a movie that doesn't look good nowadays. So just saying,
Hmm.
"Oh, the movie looks good," that's not really something to be super proud of. I mean, sure, if you're like making Blade Runner 2049, that's like a really really good looking movie, but if the best part of your movie is how it looks, there's not really much to it.
It's but the themes, dude. What about the themes?
Oh, the theme of don't we can't win a war by fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. That theme.
That's one of the strongest themes, man.
Oh, wonderful.
Uh,
Uh,
anyway, yeah. So are we good to go?
yeah, yeah, it's rolling now.
Oh, so you got Audacity going, have you?
Yep, yeah, it's already recording.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah. So can I do my intro? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. See, nothing. You didn't say anything, but your light came on.
I said yes.
Okay. Cool.
I'll open up
Um.
Discord. See, I'll keep an eye on that level.
hmm Is it, you know, the voice connected little bars in the bottom left? Is that being green the whole time as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of flickers every once in a while, but it's been green now.
Yeah. If it's flickering, that might actually explain it. Your internet's, I'm assuming, fine. You downloading anything or anything? Oh wait,
No,
yeah. Are
I
you rendering anything?
no. I checked my internet speed about 20 minutes ago. It said it was great. The only thing
Hmm.
I'm doing right now is just recording Audacity and streaming, and obviously in the call.
Yeah, no, it should work. I don't know. Like, all I'm trying to do is figure out what I could possibly do to try and help you out. But yeah, I'll do my best to just ask you to repeat, I guess, whenever you just don't come through for whatever reason. But obviously, if you have Audacity on your side, it shouldn't be a problem when it comes to the end of it.
Yeah, I'll just keep monitoring the little input sensitivity shit, and hopefully it'll just fix itself.
Okay, dokie. So all right, I'll start up now then, is it?
All right, sounds good.
Got you.
Did it do it again?
Okay,
Uh,
I,
just go
I'm gonna
ahead.
do it now. All right, three seconds from now, I'm gonna start it up.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Screen Tape Podcast number 4. I've cracked out one on Dark Souls, Resident Evil, Star Wars, and now it's going to be Marvel related. How incredible is that? Complete massive differences in quality and content. But it's not going to be any of my co-hosts today. Just me and my guest. Fuck, I didn't even ask how you'd like to be referred. The Dishonored Wolf is the channel name, and it'll be in the description, of course. He makes review style stuff like I do, but I would say significantly shorter, since I could pretty much say that about every channel on YouTube aside from myself, which is not some kind of boast. It's actually like garnered a lot of hate. But anyway, welcome to my podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, that comment I left on that video, I looked at some of the replies to it, and there's people that like genuinely think that I was mad at you when you
Oh, I
made
knew
that
that was going to
comment.
happen. I actually, to be honest, dude, I was half and half. I was like, oh, I hope he's not mad. I'm only playing. Like, I'm not. I don't want to hurt your feelings. But I
No,
was
man,
like, I'm pretty sure this guy can take it.
no, I laughed really hard when I saw that. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I've got this sorted with a smiley face, and I was like, I hope people just assume that it's fine. But I mean, anybody who doesn't will see my podcast and your stream hopefully, and be like, oh, they don't hate each other. Fine. But yeah. So if I actually had a name for you, would you want it to be Wolf or?
You can just call me whatever.
That's all I've got. I haven't got. I don't know what else I'd call you.
Yeah, you could just go with that.
Okay.
Because my name's a little bit
and yeah,
long.
like I said, you can just call me Mauler if you were wondering. Because I assume you don't use like a IRL name or anything, do you?
No, not really.
Sorry?
No, I don't really.
Yeah, no, that didn't come through twice.
Oh my god, what's wrong with my Discord? It doesn't usually do this.
Yeah, it's doing like the little things as well where I can hear like the and then you speak, if you know what I mean. It usually means connection for that.
You'll just have to do way more editing for this than usual, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's cool because all I'll do, right, what I'm saying right now won't be in my final, but I'll try and fix it so that it's as smooth as possible on my end. But anyway, yeah, so did you say you had an IRL name or no? Or do you not use it, I mean?
I just don't really use it.
All I heard was use it.
I don't use it often, no.
You know what the solution might actually be, by the way, is if you can make your sentences at least about 6 words, I think it might actually come through. Because every time you do quick answers, I don't hear anything.
At least 6 words. That's going to be real interesting to work with.
Yeah, see, because I didn't hear anything for about a second, and then I heard the rest of your sentence. That actually might be a weird solution. Anyway, so yeah, I'll go by Wolf. That's cool. So the whole issue was it started out. I watch every Marvel film. I really like Marvel. I don't think Marvel's great. I really like Marvel. There's a strong difference. Just because superheroes are cool. I've definitely got the whole childish perspective on how I like watching superhero stuff, just like any other kid does, sort of thing, but as now grown up. But as someone who criticizes movies constantly, I do have a perspective on whether or not they're of quality or not. Like they keep changing. Marvel is because Marvel's so big now, it has movies all over the place in terms of quality, and it often comes down to directors, writers, and everything else. Because you could be like, Disney ruined this one, Disney ruined this one. It's like possibly in production, but a lot of the time, the better ones, everyone goes to the directors. They're like, oh, they made this one good. Like Winter Soldier is looked at as really good because of the Russo brothers. And then they did Civil War and they're doing Infinity War as well, which I'm actually happy about just because I love Civil War so much. Which brings me to what this is going to be about. I watched your Ragnarok review after the Star Wars one because it was one of your newer Marvel ones. And I hated it because a lot of the arguments came down to ugly CGI or bad jokes, which to me are really subjective unless you're going to sort of provide a scale in some way. Now, for the CGI one, you did say that other films that are older with similar budgets look better. For me, though, I'm sitting there like, maybe. I don't know. Like, I'd kind of need to see a comparison of what scenes you're going for. One scene I think you're going for, do you remember when Hela kills all of the knights near the beginning of Ragnarok?
Oh yeah, the scene that looked almost it looked like that one scene from I think it was Men in Black 2. And it
Well, Matrix Reloaded I would go with, dude.
Or not why did I say Men in Black?
I was wondering that too. I was like, I've seen Men in Black 2. When does that happen in Men in Black 2?
Oh well, they have M's in there, so I guess that works. No, yeah, the Matrix 2. What the fuck is wrong with me? No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, it looked like that really shitty fight scene from The Matrix 2, where there was just
and
like
a lot of her CGI itself, Hela's, she looks really like rubbery whenever she moves in fast motions and throws her little knives.
The main problem I had is everything looked way too glossy, and it just looked fake to me. Nothing really looked convincing on any level.
Yeah, also there's a lot of CGI I think looks great in the film. See, so if I was to try and get through it myself, I would have like a strong like look at loads of screenshots and try and compare and figure out if it's more the aesthetics of it versus the actual quality. Because obviously a lot of I forget the trash planet's name, but it's really like bright green and yellows and there's all this different stuff all over the place. And one of the first things I heard from people who liked the film was how gorgeous the place looked, and then loads of people were like, no, it looks ugly as hell. So I was just sitting there like, so is this subjective, or is there anything I can actually draw from this? But you know, I I let it go, right? So because moving on to the comedy side of it, I completely understand someone not liking the jokes because that's totally a thing that happens with humans. And I've heard that a lot of people with the perspective that they don't like the jokes because it undermines the more dramatic parts of the film, which, to be fair, there's probably more dramatic elements in terms of description in Ragnarok than any other Thor so far. The destruction of Asgard, the death of Odin, the loss of Thor's hammer and his eye. It's like, shit, these are really significant things. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to feel it really because it's so comedic in tone that you don't sit with these things, you don't absorb them, they just happen and you're gone. So I understand the people saying it ruins the tone. However, I feel like the film makes it clear from the outset that it's going to be a comedy. So I wasn't concerned with them making the tone accurate for these things happening because they play them all for laughs for the most part. Now, there's totally an argument to be had there, and I'm not confident that I can convince anybody of it entirely. I just think that there's more to go through with Thor Ragnarok. But Captain America Civil War, I feel like I can argue anyone out of saying it's a bad film. Like, that's how confident I am with this film's plot and its characters. So that's what I want to refocus to instead. Because Civil War, I feel like you should be careful doing this because it kind of poisons the well and also sets me up to look like an idiot potentially to a lot of people. But Civil War is my favorite superhero movie, and I would argue that it's near the best. So that's very controversial to a lot of people because it's just like a lot of people think it's terrible. So and yeah, I'm thinking about stuff like Watchmen, Dark Knight, and any other Marvel film when I say that. So I've said that, and I was going to say, do you want to get your sort of simple version of what you think of Civil War out?
Sure. I'll say this. I didn't dislike Civil War to some radical extent. I didn't think it was a terrible movie, especially in regards to Thor Ragnarok. I definitely liked Civil War a lot more than Thor did. But it just felt really. It didn't feel like a normal story and how it should work in any way because everything just seemed like a
Hmm.
really jumbled mess. Like you had all these characters doing all these different things. And like I said in another Marvel video I did, it just felt like it was a movie to set up better movies.
Okay. So that's sort of like your total assessment, is it?
Yeah, I
Like
don't
the simplified
from
version.
a technical perspective, I don't really have any problems with Civil War. I mean, I didn't like the color grading. I'm sure you know that fight scene in the airport where it's just all really washed out looking.
Well, so because I don't know, I hate if I come across as some kind of movie expert in my videos, I'd have to reassure people every time that I'm just a random person on the internet who watches films. I've got no professional training of any kind. So when you say color grading, as embarrassing as this may sound for me, what does that mean exactly?
Like the color filters, how it looks, because pretty much every movie uses it doesn't use the same colors that we see just on a regular day. Uh, you know, terrible. Well, not a terrible example. Have you seen like the later Harry Potter movies and how they all got way progressively darker than like any other
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
on the market? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Now, Civil War doesn't do it nearly to that extent, and that's a good thing. I don't think any movie should ever do it that badly because it just
Is it
looks
almost
really
like
bad.
they're putting 10% darker every film as a shade on top of whatever's happening? Is
Yeah, it's just little filters that change the colors, and sometimes it works, but you see, sometimes it looks good, but sometimes it also looks really bad. Have you ever seen? Have you seen the new Wonder Woman movie?
yeah.
Did you did you think that the colors looked kind of oversaturated, especially on their island?
Um you'd probably be able to show me like point it out and then compare it, and then I'd probably be able to agree with you. But from memory, I really just didn't like Wonder Woman at all, so I don't even remember a lot of it. Sort of been deleted from my memory. DC films do not have an effect on me. Like I see them as jokes pretty much at this point.
Oh yeah, the DCEU is pretty fucking awful. But one of the big problems I had with Wonder Woman is that the colors were really oversaturated and it just looked really unnatural to me. And one of the problems I have with a lot of movies, I mean, Alien Covenant did this, obviously the later Harry Potter's movies did this, is they put these color filters over the movie that really detract from the way it looks. And while that airplane fight scene in Civil War wasn't really all that bad, I mean, it was kind of bland looking to me. It didn't really do anything that raised the bar in terms of fight scenes, but it was perfectly passable. The thing that really irritated me about it is that the colors looked really washed out and dull to the point where it just felt boring rather than exciting.
Because I've got it up for myself just so I can sort of see it, and it's like, yeah, I guess I can see where you're coming from. But like, I'm sure you would accept, right, that like this bothers people or it doesn't. Like, I don't know if you do you feel confident in saying it's bad color grading, as in like you would talk to someone from the industry and say like you kind of fucked this up?
I wouldn't say it's
Or like I'm trying to provide you an option, like, or would you say something like, you may have satisfied the majority of audiences, but I still think that you've screwed with the colors too much, and they could come back with something like, yeah, well, we're trying to make this good for the eyes of the average people or something like that.
I mean, it's kind of subjective. Like I said, from a technical level, I don't really have many problems with Civil War. It's just that the color grading in certain scenes, particularly that one, to me doesn't look good. I mean, I know that there's people that actually like the color filters that they put in Alien Covenant, even though it makes it almost borderline impossible to tell what's happening. Some people like that. I really don't, but that is subjective.
Because like, I get what you're saying, but like, these are not so like the impression that things look too much like they're mixing in with each other, or people aren't distinguished enough, or it's kind of just ugly to look at, stuff like that. It's like, genuinely, these are not feelings that me or people I've spoken to had with the film. So I'm just trying to sort of like see it myself. And if it is just subjective, then I'm pretty much happy to sort of, leave it as a moot point.
Yeah. I mean, the CGI, I mean, it's been a few months since I last saw Civil War, but I don't remember there being anything bad about the CGI. It's just that the color filters to me didn't look very appealing, but that is subjective. And like, again, from a technical level, I think the movie's perfectly fine. My personal complaints about Civil War really come down to the narrative more than how it's made.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Because I was about to say, that's the interesting, I think, reach between us is that, like, if someone told me the story is great, but the CGI isn't too great, I'd be like, that's fine with me. I don't really care. Because the thing that I think is great about Civil War is the story. So we should probably tackle that then, is it?
Yeah, sure. Did you hear
and
me?
And then I can't hear anything. You just nope.
Man, maybe I do need to speak in like longer sentences, but yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
All right. So I was thinking like the best way the way I usually do it on my channel is chronologically. So, but I don't know if you maybe want to sort of break it down in sort of bits that spread across the film. Like maybe, for example, you want to tackle Iron Man as a whole throughout the film, and then Captain America, and then the story or whatever. So I was going to say I leave it to you if there's a particular way you'd rather do it. Unless you want to, we could go meta first. If you want to talk about does it affect a film's quality if they're if you needed to see Captain America 1 and 2, and if you needed to see the other Marvel films, we could talk about those two concepts first.
Yeah, let's do that, because Civil War it doesn't really feel like a Captain America movie to any extent. I think the first Captain America movie, for starters, it's fine. It's enjoyable, nothing great. I really liked Winter Soldier. I think that's probably it's definitely one of my favorite Marvel movies. I don't think it's quite as good as the first Iron Man, but it's really close. I think it's a great movie. But Civil War feels like some in-between Avengers movie rather than it does a Captain America movie, because it feels like the whole Bucky storyline was kind of pushed to the side to make way for, okay, we're going to set up this movie, this movie, this movie, and this movie. Like, hey, remember Ant-Man? We're going to make another one. Oh, hey, remember Black Panther? We're going to make that too. But then,
Hmm.
like, the central
Okay.
narrative that I was actually interested in just feels like it was shoved aside and focused more on something that really should have been in a normal Avengers movie.
So we'll tackle the Captain Americas first. I think, and I would defend to the death, that this film can totally assume that you've seen the first two Captain Americas, and so anything you need from those films to understand this film is totally valid.
Totally. It's one thing to say that you need to understand everything from the first two Captain America movies to understand the third. That I'm perfectly fine with because that makes sense. Just like you
Hmm.
need to watch the all the movies leading up to the first Avengers for the Avengers to. I guess it doesn't really make it seem more
Well, it's cool.
sensical,
If
but
you agree with that, we can move on to the next one, which is the universe side of it.
yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the universe side of it is that if you haven't seen the three Iron Men, you don't need to see the Thor movie. You need to see the Avengers film. You need to kind of see Ant-Man. You don't need to see Doctor Strange. But point being, you need to see a handful of singular ones and then the mainstay ones if you want to understand everything that happens in Winter Soldier. Sorry, Civil War. Like you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, I feel like specifically with the Avengers movies, they play a way more important role in Civil War than any of the Avengers movies did in any of the other uh, uh, regular films. Like Thor, I think Dark World had like one little mention to it to the first Avengers
Hmm.
movie, that is.
Yeah, I'd
But
agree with that. To be honest, dude, I would have renamed Captain America Civil War to Avengers 3 Civil War, but obviously they couldn't do that because reasons.
yeah,
I'll never know why, but it's a film that shares screen time for Cap and Iron Man pretty much equally, and they're both extremely important in terms of what happens in it. So it's like, how is this a Captain America film, strictly speaking? And why is every Avenger in this? Like, literally every fucking Avenger aside from maybe Thor, Hulk, um, Doctor Strange, and all of them turn up in Ragnarok as a sort of like to make up for them not being in Civil War. So yeah, I think it's more of an Avengers movie. I'd agree with
yeah,
that.
and for clarification, that's not really the issue I have. I mean, if it was just like they named a Captain America movie, or if they named an Avengers movie a Captain America movie, I mean that would be stupid. But
Hmm.
that's not really the crux of the issue I take with it. It just feels
Yeah.
like they have all these different ideas that really should have their own movies and jammed them all into the same film without really
So I'm gonna guess
developing all
you're
of it.
referring to Black Panther and Spider-Man, are you?
Those two are very egregious examples, yes. The worst parts of the movie. Spider Man really didn't need to be there. Black Panther, I mean, well, I'm not a comic book reader, at least not superhero
Hmm.
comic book reader.
Oh,
So
wait. We should disclaimer this. This conversation and debate, whatever, is taking place assuming nothing about the comics because I don't know anything about them really, and I don't think Wolf does either. So we're just going to stick to what the universe is established and dealing with, basically.
yeah, it's just based off of the movies, not the
Yeah,
comics. That's a whole
yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
conversation. But
Obviously.
I said in the second Marvel video I ended up doing that the big problem I had with the way they revealed Black Panther is that there was absolutely no indication that he was anything more than just some random black guy that the movie put this weird amount of emphasis on. And then like he shows up as Black Panther and it's like what how did any of the beginning of the movie lead up to this? It just came really out of nowhere and then him choosing a side in the whole uh, Avengers war.
Yeah. Okay.
It
Well, I
felt
can.
really awkward.
Like I said, I think I prefer this sort of plan to sort of break down the films. We'll go with this. The first topic then is pretty much going to be: is Black Panther shoehorned into this film? Like, I'm assuming you'd say yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was maybe not as shoehorned as Spider Man because I really don't feel like he offered anything to the movie.
It's,
Black Panther at
that's
least
cool.
had
We'll,
like
we'll
a
we'll do
story.
both of them because this is how strong I think the film is. We'll do both of them. So, do you want to go? I'm assuming you think Spider-Man's the easier target. If you want to go with him first, we can do that, or Black Panther.
Yeah, Spider Man. I mean, unless you were paying attention to the news with Marvel, not just watching the movies casually, Spider Man had like no. If you hadn't been watching the news and like listening to what Marvel was doing, you wouldn't have even known that Spider Man was going to be in the movie. So when
Yeah, yeah, no.
Tony
If we
Stark,
if we assume, yeah, if we he's a complete surprise, right? Let's assume we don't know anything about Spider-Man when watching this universe. We would just be like, what the fuck? It's a kid who's like a in a red onesie firing webs and stuff. What the hell is this? So like I'm happy to go with that as the perspective.
Yeah, the problem I had, like, Tony Stark just knows about him, even though
Hmm.
in this universe he had not even been established yet. And then he's like, "Hey, you're a kid who can shoot webs out of his wrists. Want to help me beat up all my friends?" It just seemed
Okay,
really out of
so
nowhere.
they do give you a good. I actually think Spider-Man is 50-50 for me, which is given more setup. But Spider-Man's the whole premise to me is that this universe is running, and we're aware that there are super people everywhere. Even Vision has the line that like special people with abilities are propping up more and more and more ever since Iron Man started all of this. Um, so Iron Man's been all around the world. He has incredible technology. He can probably pick up when certain interesting things happen. And of course, he references on his little phone that he's there's security footage of this guy running around in what looks like a ridiculous suit with the ability to what did you say? Something like stop 3,000 pounds running at 30 miles per hour. And he was like, that's pretty impressive. And you can run around. And then he knows about the webbing as well. And he said the most impressive thing about him was the high tensile strength webbing. So he knows about all of it. Is it possible for Iron Man to know all this? It's like, well, I think with the technology we've seen with him, it's more than reasonable. And he could be like, okay, but Spider-Man comes out of nowhere, right? And it's like, well, if he'd been existing in this universe, which is more than reasonable to assume, because we got plenty of powerful people all over the place, and I'll get to this with Black Panther as well. Then Iron Man's going to have spotted him. A 16-year-old, I think he is. So he's probably just keeping an eye on him. As long as he's only saving people from petty theft, whatever, then just leave him alone. It doesn't really matter. But now that he's got this huge problem where he needs to stop several strong heroes, not necessarily kill whatsoever, stop them, tie them up, send them to the government in prison so they can sort out signing the accords. And so, who is the perfect person you can think of for getting people strung up?
Uh, well, him, obviously. But
So I think he's bringing him in because he's like, this guy is super strong, super fast, super agile. I can give him a good suit that'll match his abilities, and he can string people up. And what does he say in the fight? He's like, what we discussed, web them up. And he's like getting distracted because obviously he's a kid, but he does do that in the fight. He just a bunch of things get in his way. He starts stringing up Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then the Falcon fucks him up with the little droid thing and sends him out the window, and then they all end up getting distracted by the giant Ant-Man. But you remember, like, he has the 1v1 with Captain America, and Captain America fucks him over by spinning his webs into him and, like, knocking the thing on him. So I was just going to say, Spider-Man, like, I'm sort of covering Spider-Man as a whole, to me, makes sense. And the fact that they gave him such a big scene between Tony, the ant, and him, I was, like, kind of surprised with how much development they gave him before they had the payoff of him being in the fight. And they do rely on us knowing who Spider-Man is. I'll completely agree with that, but they do explain his powers very briefly, and that Tony's been keeping an eye on him, and so he's bringing him in now because, again, this isn't a dangerous fight. It's not supposed to be. It's a fight of both. It's almost like a bar fight with no bottles or knives. It's just punching. Just nobody's going to get killed. You'll get hurt, but ultimately it's for the greater good anyway, because we can get into the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America, but like, so with Spider-Man, I feel like there's nothing wrong with it.
yeah, I don't have a problem with like knowing who Spider-Man is. I mean, that I feel like that's kind of a given that you should know who these characters, or at least who the heroes are in these movies, especially given how long this series has been going on. So that's not really a problem. And I will say that I appreciate that they tried to establish something with Spider-Man before just randomly throwing him into the fight. But it
Hmm.
felt like he, Ant-Man, and Black Panther in particular had really nothing important to contribute to the movie. And all he really did was say, "Oh, hey, look, I'm Spider-Man." I mean, really, that was all I
Um,
felt about it, was that
from like a
they
marketing point of view, they obviously milked it. 'Cause they were like, Spider-Man is in Civil War, guys, the new one, the Marvel fixed one. It was like, ooh, and he's in it for only like 5 minutes or whatever, and it's more to do with just being like, we have him, and I'm pretty sure wasn't it his appearance in Civil War that got him his own movie as well? Like
I
they gave
think
Marvel the chance to give him his own movie. I don't know the specifics of that.
I don't
Um,
remember entirely, but I think they acquired the license to Spider-Man and then they put him in the movie, and then they also had the trilogy going on as well. I don't, or at least in the works. But I'm pretty sure they
but
acquired
yeah,
the
so
license beforehand.
um, the thing I picked up on there was like he added nothing to the movie. Was something you said. Like, so what kind of what do you consider to be like adding to it? Is it when it affects the plot?
Affects the plot or the characters in some meaningful way. Now, he
Hmm.
doesn't need to have any direct impact on the course of the story because obviously he's more of a cameo than anything. But if all he really does is prove himself to be a nuisance in this fight rather than actually
Yeah,
doing
he's not
something
that
even,
effective.
yeah, he doesn't really do anything meaningful in that battle aside from just being there. And I feel like he didn't really
Okay,
have any
so
use to be there if he's not going to do anything really effective.
so if we go from the movie's purpose for him being there, or let's say the money side of it is that they want to give him an intro so that he can get his own movie, and that he just slap him right into the universe because Spider-Man is Spider-Man. We got to get him in there. Like, okay, so the writer's choice is to like, how do we get him to work in there? And it's like, well, Spider-Man's pretty OP, so if he's in a fight where he's got to string people up and then they can get captured, he's just going to dominate, isn't he? And it's like, yeah, you'll just do it. And it's like, well, what if it's a Spider-Man? We're resetting. We're not even doing the Uncle Ben thing. We're not doing anything. We're going to make him younger than he's ever been. And it's like, we're going to make it so this is his first actual fight against people who have powers. He's just been doing the kid thing. He's only had his powers, I think he says, for a couple of weeks or months. So he's completely inexperienced. And if you judge from Homecoming, he's actually pretty reckless and idiotic when it comes to his powers, and he fucks up a load of shit. I think that it's just about how much you can suspend your disbelief about how good Spider-Man is in the fight in terms of, because so what I'm trying to argue for is like he didn't even affect anything. It's like, yeah, but it's believably ineffective. This is why Tony tells him to leave, because he doesn't want him to actually get killed, because
Sure.
he's just like kind of an idiot. And so for me, it was like they had to implement Spider-Man, and I think they gave us a hell of a lot more than they actually needed to. He could have just shown up, and Tony could have been like, "Yeah, this is a guy I know," and I would have been right on your team, criticizing the hell out of it. But I'm not even kidding when I say it's something like a 20-minute scene of him and Tony just going back and forth and back and forth and establishing everything, setting everything up, and Tony being basically like, "It's time I'm bringing you in," which is something they've done with other heroes.
Was that
Um,
really a 20? I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the movie in a
I'll
while, but I don't
I
remember
will
it being that long.
I will find out for you right now
Are you?
because like I said, I'm
We're talking
surprised at
about
how.
when he meets him in his like bedroom, right?
Oh well, I would go from Spider-Man walking into the room and seeing Tony and his aunt, because that already we're getting loads of lines that establish the characters and develop them. Like he's obviously timid. Tony's doing something sneaky. We have no idea what's going on, and the aunt has back and forth, basically letting us know that she has no idea what's going on. So I would just argue that this is already giving us his character.
Sure. And that I don't really think the way he was established was all that bad. It's just the way he was utilized that I thought was kind of pointless.
Oh, you know what? I'll completely kowtow to it. I'm full of shit. It's like 7 to 8 minutes, I
I,
think.
I, I definitely didn't remember there being a 20-minute scene in their
Yeah, like
bedroom.
I said, I just I'll tell you what it was. I was just impressed with how much time it actually. I was like, this scene's still going. I was just like, they've actually put a decent chunk of time into giving us a setup to Spider-Man instead of, like I said, because a lot of people had this criticism. I was just like, why wouldn't it? He just appears, right? Like, wouldn't that just be it? And it's just like, no, they actually do put their time in, is what I'd argue. And that's another thing that I think is so good about Civil War is they do not lose a chance with dialogue. There's so much exposition everywhere, and I feel like that the only way I'd be able to prove this to you is if we watched the film together and I kept pausing and sort of pointing things out to you, because like it's there's not in like a pretentious or condescending way. I just mean it like I only found this out when I rewatched it recently. I started like listening to every line, and I was just like, oh, that sets that up, that explains that, and I was like, shit, this is actually really good. Like in terms of something to appreciate as writing, that's all. So
Yeah,
your overall thing.
uh,
No, go ahead.
well, the thing with Spider-Man is though, when I really think about it, because I usually forget that he's even in the movie, Ant-Man is probably the worst offender of things that just really did not need to be there at all, more so than
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
okay.
But the
We
thing,
can, because I was going to say we've got Ant-Man and Panther left. We'll totally do them.
yeah, but the thing that's different with Spider-Man from how I felt with Ant-Man and Black Panther is that Spider-Man at least did have like some setup to who he was and who he was going to be as a character and what he was going to do in the movie. But the other two were just kind of thrown in there. The difference is that Ant-Man and Black Panther at least had a little bit more to do than Spider-Man. It was different in the sense that Spider-Man was set up pretty well, or at least reasonably well in the context of him only getting like 8 or so minutes to talk. But he just wasn't utilized well after that point. Whereas Ant-Man and Black Panther were really badly introduced, but utilized a bit more effectively.
Okay. I don't know. Let's just put it this way then, because we're gonna have we unfortunately we don't have hours and hours. I wish we did, but because I would keep going and trying to figure it out. But like, so would you say that at least your perspective on Spider-Man has gone up a bit, at least his position in the movie?
What do you mean by my perspective of him? You mean like, do I like him in the movie after this conversation, or like him as a character?
Do you think his implementation was a little bit better than you did before?
In terms of how he was set up, I do agree with you that I think the setup was all right. The introduction was pretty good. It's just that how he was utilized beyond being introduced as a character that I wasn't a big fan of.
You wanted him to have more effect, is kind of what you're saying, is it?
Essentially, yes, because you can introduce a character, but if he's not going to have some meaningful impact on the course of the story or the characters, then it feels like you're just putting in filler rather than making something meaningful. And so, again, I haven't even seen the new Spider-Man movie, so it could very well be pretty good, and it could be way better set up than what he was given in Civil War. But it felt like Civil War was just like, oh, hey, we're making a Spider-Man movie now. We're going to give you a little introduction, and then that's going to be pretty much his entire contribution to the movie, just introducing you to him to tell you that there's going to be a new Spider-Man movie.
That's absolutely fine. So what I would say is that for Civil War's plot, Civil Wars, Spider-Man barely does anything. He's more just around. But then I would be like, I don't consider that an issue almost whatsoever, considering the context of the Marvel Universe. Spider-Man's payoff is in his own movie, is going to be in Infinity War, and wherever else he does, just like anyone else who gets introduced quickly or used quickly back and forth, because they're allowed, they have this sort of allowance in the Marvel Universe. However, I will make a caveat that I only allow this if the film stands on its own regardless. So does Spider-Man, without Spider-Man, it doesn't take away from the plot whatsoever. The plot is already so we'll get to how solid the plot is, obviously, but from my perspective, if you were to conclude that the plot is solid, does it matter that Spider-Man does or doesn't add to it? For me, no, because he serves a purpose. The writing makes sense for why he was found when he was, why he was implemented when he was, and why he was taken out when he was. However, it's given us a quick intro. We know who he is, so they can hit the ground running in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Like I said, they skip the Uncle Ben story, as well as they skip his origin powers as well. They go straight into a genuine Spider-Man film, which is something I really liked. Instead of just doing something we've seen with Tobey Maguire and guy from Social Network, I've forgotten his name.
Andrew Garfield.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, fucking hell, it like lagged for me. I just hit Garfield, and I was like, "What's he got to do with this?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can imagine how confusing that would be. Yeah. No, the only reason I even remember Andrew Garfield's name is because I really, really, really hated those movies.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I would never defend those. You're not going to catch me doing it. So, yeah. So for me, Spider-Man not being effective on the plot doesn't bother me because the writing took care of it in terms of explaining why.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't really something that I found bothersome so much as I found him unnecessary, because
yeah,
I
could definitely see that. It's just that it's sort of how much impact does that have, him being unnecessary? Do you like any of the jokes he had, out of curiosity?
I don't really remember there being too many jokes I laughed at in the movie. Nothing that I found like just dumb like I did in Thor Ragnarok. But
right,
like I said, it's been a while since I watched the movie, so no jokes really come to mind.
like I'm sort of leading somewhere with this. So like for instance, when he locks arms with Winter Soldier and he says, "You have a metal arm," that's awesome. And it's like
I think I
the
did
reason
laugh
why
at
that
that.
works for me so well is because again, 16-year-olds or whatever, just thrown into a fight with other super people. And he's like, "What's this guy's thing? He's got a metal arm. That's awesome." So I was really on board with it because I was already like, "This is the character. This is Spider-Man." You know, and you could argue that that's irrelevant of the film, right? And it'd be like, well, it's a kid, and that's what's been established, and that's a completely new dynamic for these lot. It's like everybody's grumpy adults. So we've got this kid who doesn't even understand what really the point of this is. He's only been told by Tony that a Captain America is wrong. So like, I'm sort of trying to argue for substance here, like content, in that it was entertaining having Spider-Man there, and that's a completely subjective term. But obviously, if you agree to it, then it's true, at least for us two.
I'd say that the way his character was written, in the sense, again, haven't seen the new one, so I'm not really able to make a big judgment on who he is
Yeah,
in
that's cool.
context of the
We
other
should probably
films.
move on because I don't want to. I do want to get to the plot eventually, but I'll go for Ant-Man's easy, right? So it's he's literally thrown in from the back of a van for the fight and then booted out of the film almost immediately. And the connection we have is, if you've seen Ant-Man, he had a fight with Falcon, and that's why Falcon earlier said, "I've got a guy," and that's how he brings him in. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the extent of Ant-Man in the film.
yeah, I watched Ant-Man, and when he came into Civil War, and when he was thrown in that truck and just brought there, I was like, "Who are you again? I kind of recognize your face, but I don't remember who you are." And then he puts the Ant-Man
Hmm.
suit on, and I'm like, "Okay, why are you here?" Because he didn't do anything aside from like punch someone, and then he kind of vanished. Like his involvement in particular had literally nothing to do with anything aside from he's here.
So he's the reason Captain America and Winter Soldier managed to make it to the base.
What did he do with that again?
I'm waiting for you to be like, "What?"
I don't remember
Um,
that. I mean,
so
I
okay,
even
so
read
I'll
a.
start from the beginning. Obviously, the Marvel Universe assumes you've seen the Ant-Man movie, and we can still debate whether or not that's fair. We'll get to it a different time, but we assume we've seen it, so you know him. Falcon and Captain America are desperate right now because they're about to go against Vision, Iron Man, War Machine. Trying to think of the more significant players out of them, but you know, basically people who are going to be incredibly difficult to get past, and so they want to hire as many people, get as many people as they can, because they're trying to save the world by killing these Winter Soldiers that are going to be activated. It's like that's their whole purpose, and they know that Captain America, Iron Man won't listen to them. He won't even believe them. So they're going to need to get anyone they can. Falcon met Ant-Man. He is a legitimate superhero who actually beat him in a fight. So it makes sense that he would bring him in. Now you could be like, well, we need more establishment of him. Like, you know, he's just brought in. It's like, I mean, I don't want to make the argument for how they've got little time, but it's like, if you're gonna get like the 8-minute Ant-Man scene where they just sort of talk to Scott Lang, I think his name is, and be like, "We're gonna need you to blah 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 blah," or they have him drop in and they have a conversation that's really quick in line with his character, which is, "You sure you want to do this? They say something like, we're criminals and we're against the law here," and then Ant-Man says something like, "Tell me what else has changed," or something like that, because he's a criminal as well in his timeline. He's the thief that's turned into a hero. So, and he loves Captain America. I'm pretty sure that's established as well. He considers him like a role model sort of thing. So all I'll say is he's the weakest one, absolutely. But it all like makes sense within universe. And if you wanted an establishment scene, I'd be like, yeah, that's something they could have tweaked to make it a bit better. But I don't really see it taking away too much, if anything, away from the film.
Well, I do want to get to that, but I do want to ask, when you say that he allowed Captain America, Iron Man, and Winter Soldier to get to that base, do you mean like he just fought so he was able to at
He
least do
distracted
something?
Iron Man, War Machine, and Spider-Man all at the
Okay.
same time.
When you said that, I was like, did I miss a point in the movie where he like hacked into something?
No,
And
no, 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 no.
I was really confused about that. So
Because in fairness, he's the key component to the fight that they managed to escape. You could argue that Vision is the reason they actually get there, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the only reason they have a chance of escaping is Giant Man basically completely fucking over Iron Man, War Machine, and Spider-Man at the same time. It's only Vision that manages to barely stop them, and then he fucks the whole thing up.
sure. But I
So to
feel like
me,
just
he serves quite a purpose.
I mean, I feel like just participating in a fight and like doing what basically every other character in that scene is doing doesn't really
Yeah.
constitute him really being thrown in there, especially when at that point at least he had absolutely nothing to do with any of them aside from just being in the same universe. It
I mean, he knew Falcon. Like I said, if you want to discuss whether or not it's fair to be referencing these things when they're not from the movie itself, I'm totally on board with that. But
Sure, but
he did know Falcon.
I was meaning like more of the main characters, you know, like Iron Man, Captain
Oh, right,
America.
right, right.
Like he didn't really have anything to do with the Avengers specifically. I mean, Falcon, how much has he had to do with the Avengers aside from like popping in a couple times in those movies?
You're
And
right. And I would have way preferred them give more setup to it. All I'll say is the film is dense with things happening. And like we could have had that scene instead of Spider-Man's, or we could have had those two instead of more from I think his name is T'Challa, the Black Panther.
yeah,
So I think I'm happy to concede about Ant-Man, but he does serve more than no purpose. He is actually used for something, and his introduction is in line with his character. It's
sure,
just
I'll give you that.
there's not much to go on, and yeah, it would be great to know more of why he's actually so happy to do this. But the film gives us that he believes in Captain America, basically, as well as he wants to help out, other superheroes or whatever. Oh, and oh, fuck! I completely forgot. Have you seen Ant-Man?
Yeah, I did. I hardly remember any of it because I didn't really think it was a great movie. Not like bad, just like really forgettable.
That's cool. So there's a scene. Well, there's a lot of scenes. The whole film is actually built on this. The selling of weaponry is not something the old Ant-Man wants, and they're trying to prevent people from doing it with Ant-Man tech. And the initial flashback with Michael Douglas establishes that Howard Stark, Tony Stark's dad, was trying to get him to sell it, as far as I know. I could be wrong on this, but I know this. The important part is that his name is Hank, I think. Can't remember what his surname is. Hank Pym? That's it. He hates the Starks. He despises them. He thinks they're terrible and that they're warmongers. And so they're spread to Scott because he's his mentor. He doesn't like Starks. He likes Captain America, and he's been asked to help them fight Iron Man.
Yeah,
So this is
I'll
why for
give you
me,
that. That
yeah.
does
So this
make
is why
sense
for
when you
me I was
say
like,
that.
yeah, his motivation. I was like, that's pretty strong. But I totally agree. They definitely could have done more. A tweak there would have been better. But I do consider it in the grand scheme of Civil War to be negligible. It's like that's just something that could have been a little bit better. But I'm not.
Yeah,
No film is perfect. That
you
sort of
know,
argument.
the one thing I that really bothered me about Civil War wasn't so much that the characters were there. It wasn't even so much that that there was a lot of characters that didn't really seem to contribute much. It was that I felt like there was way too many characters for what the story could have served with like maybe 4 or 5 of them instead of 15.
Do you mean like sort of spend more development on the ones we have rather than involving so many that you give few developments to?
Yeah, I mean Scarlet Witch, sure, she had some involvement with uh she threw the bomb into that, was it a hospital?
Sorry, who?
Scarlet Witch.
Oh yeah. You asking what her sort of
Yeah, because
involvement in the film was?
she was the one who accidentally threw a grenade into like a hospital at the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's what she did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I understand her involvement, but it felt like there were way too many characters that had to deal with this, especially when like in the background you're more well, the movie tried, I guess, to focus on
So
all the stuff with
that's why
Bucky.
this is more of an Avengers film to me than it is Captain America. But is so the argument I'm assuming would come to we're spread too thin. Is that kind of where you're going with it?
Maybe not spread too thin, just like there was way more than there needed to be. Because I get the whole idea of like maybe the Avengers should have more restrictions because they have caused a lot of destruction in the past. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like that needed to include like almost every single Avenger beating each other up for it. I think that could have been settled between a few of them, but also a good portion of it was also focused on Tony Stark and his feud with Bucky because it seems
Mm-hmm.
like the movie was trying to focus on both of those at the same time and it just felt really off because they didn't give enough development to either one. So you have this big fight scene over the whole we need to have more restrictions, and then that goes to I think maybe like 20 minutes later in the movie, they have a fight scene because, oh, Bucky accidentally, or not accidentally, killed Tony Stark's parents when
Oh,
he wasn't
we're gonna get
in
to
his
that
right
one.
mind.
But all I would say then is like I would need like what character do you think was sort of squandered thanks to this in some way? Because obviously the fact that so many people are there, and you'd be like, there's just too many people there. It's just too like hard to believe that all of them would be there. I consider it the complete opposite. You know, Iron Man 3, when the president gets kidnapped and mysteriously every single superhero is missing aside from Iron Man.
Yeah,
Like that frustrates the hell out of me. But the idea that the Accords are happening right now and that the Avengers as a team are trying to sort out whether or not to sign a thing that'll basically mean they cannot attack anything in future, whether or not someone says okay, basically involves every single human that's got superpowers or considers themselves morally good. So there's more reason in Civil War for everybody to be collecting up than there is in basically any of the Marvel film. Before Infinity War, I'll argue, is more because it's literally the end of the world.
sure. I mean,
So what
I
I'm trying to argue for is that there are in-universe and in-film writing reasons that make it so that I'm immersed because I'm like, why are all these superheroes here? And it's like, this is why. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It feels, however, to me, and I know this is more of just like a personal preference thing, especially with Marvel in general, because
Hmm.
unlike you, I just don't really find the movies to be all that entertaining in the first place.
Well,
But
we would agree on plenty of them being bad, don't worry.
yeah,
Like, I
um,
wouldn't enjoy plenty of them.
but it feels like I think the ideas presented in Civil War were really good. I liked the idea of maybe we need to have more restrictions with our powers because we kind of fuck shit up sometimes. And I also liked the idea
Yeah.
of trying to close up the whole or wrap up the Winter Soldier storyline, which I feel like was such a small part when that really should have been a far larger part of the movie. Because it feels like that whole storyline was kind of pushed to the side when that
Wait, so
should have been
sorry,
the
what
focus.
storyline?
Wrapping up Bucky's storyline and
Okay,
making him
okay.
more of a character.
Um, I was gonna say, so I don't know if you want to just finish up with Black Panther quickly, because like I said, I pretty much accept your criticisms of Ant-Man, though I think there's a couple details that save him. Spider-Man, I think, is pretty much fine, and then Black Panther, I think, is probably the hardest one to criticize out of the three. So if you want to do that one next,
Sure. You know,
um,
I don't have a problem
in
with.
oh well, okay, I'll do my piece and then see what you think about it.
Okay.
So he's Black Panther's just someone we have no idea about. We're going to pretend the comics don't exist for a second, and then the opening scene is in Lagos. That's in Somalia, and so as a result of the Avengers killing a hell of a lot of innocent people in order to prevent the spreading of a poison, blah blah blah. Um, they've killed a whole bunch of people. Like that is the result screen, if you know what I mean. We have the Center for Disease Control. A bunch of people have stolen a particularly powerful item. The Avengers managed to get it back in safekeeping, but we could argue something. I don't know what the number is, but let's just say 50 innocent people were murdered. And you go, okay, by who? And it's like one of the Avengers. It's like, okay. So the king of Somalia makes an open demand, basically, that this cannot continue. And so it's like, okay. And the king of Somalia also happens to be the father of the guy from Wakanda, which is a secret city as far as I know. And so he's there for his press conference because this is the first time he's going to be approaching the world, as far as I know, in terms of this is an extremely important meeting. It's all about the Accords. And then he is killed. And so that, to me, tells me that this would be the time, assuming we know everything about Black Panther from this universe, he wouldn't have popped in for any of this. He doesn't care about anybody outside of Wakanda or his family. And now one of them's just been killed as a result of the Avengers. So he's going to be coming in now. That sort of aspect. And then his role in the film is to basically learn a lesson about vengeance. And, you know, he does actually have... there's a couple of other details I really like about him, but so, I don't know, are you following me with this so far, or do you sort of have a problem with any of
Yeah,
it?
I don't take issue with any of the stuff you've said so far. I mean, I don't think he was utilized too badly. I had more of a problem with his introduction than his utilization because I don't think he was utilized too badly in the movie.
Also, I've pretty much... I don't really have anything else to say about his introduction, so with what I've said, what's more of the issue, if you could get to it?
The issue for me And uh, again, this is more just focused on the movies than the comics, is that there was this crazy emphasis put on him for a good chunk of the movie, even though he's not really revealed to be Black Panther until like halfway through almost. And the movie makes no attempt to really show you who he is, aside from it's just this black guy who's here. And that's all good and fine, but if that was an origin story specifically for Black Panther, but instead they just put all this emphasis on this seemingly random guy, and then out of
All right,
nowhere he's
wait.
Black Panther.
So just pause there for a second. He gets one conversation with Black Widow, and then the explosion happens, and then one conversation with Black Widow, and then he's Black Panther.
Yeah, like in the whole mostly in that one.
Sorry?
It was mostly in that like scene where his father was killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just
So
felt like,
what I'm going to say is that he is the heir to the King of Somalia or whatever, or at least he knows it. The reason that she goes to talk to him is because she knows their relationship, and his dad's just died, and she says, don't look for vengeance, not on the Winter Soldier, because that's just a really bad idea. And then he basically tells her he will be. Like, to me, it's sort of just like yeah, that's how I would probably react if my dad was just killed by this guy that we've clearly identified, and that he could be anybody, but I don't think anybody wouldn't have guessed that he was Black Panther if he knew Black Panther was in the film.
sure, it felt like more to me like he was kind of thrown in there for no real reason aside from having a way shorter origin story than I think he deserved. Now, obviously, Black Panther, his own movie, isn't out yet, so maybe he'll have a better introduction in
Oh, I'm
there.
sure they'll explain most of it in that. Yeah.
But it felt like he was a really, really rushed origin story that should have had his own movie first, rather than to put a lot of emphasis on him in those couple scenes and toward the beginning, and then
I would argue he doesn't get an origin story in Civil War at all. He's a mystery, and does it matter that he's a mystery?
Well, that was more of my problem, was that he didn't really have a very well fleshed out origin aside from, oh well, I mean, does it even explain in Civil War how he got the suit aside from he just had it, which kind of
No, we don't get explanation for that. We don't get explanation for his powers. We don't really have a motivation beyond they killed his dad.
Yeah,
And you could be like,
that was my main gripe with it, is I don't.
but the
I don't
thing is,
mind
for
him.
me, it is enough for me. If a parent is just too precious, like motivation goes, that's absolutely fine. And he is highly aggressive, like throughout the whole thing. It's a bloodlust idea, and obviously that travels through to plenty of characters in this film. And I'm not going to pull the themes argument on you, obviously, because I'm fucking tired of hearing about themes, to be honest, with Star Wars. But it's a consistent motif, let's call it, that vengeance consumes everybody in this film, pretty much. The villain is based on vengeance consuming him, sort of thing. And Black Panther, we don't know anything about him, but we know and react to him the same way that Iron Man and Captain America do. It's like, this guy has a suit that's immune to bullets. He's super agile, super aggressive. He has claws. And it's like, he's against. I'll have him on my side if he's going to help. And then, in terms of developing his character, Captain America is going to get to in the thingy movie, because apparently he's with him. I don't know if he's in the movie or not, but same way that I have actually no problem with the development of Snoke in The Force Awakens, because I was expecting us to get all the answers in the sequel. I don't have a problem with the development for Black Panther, because we're probably going to get it all in the Black Panther film.
Well, I feel like that's a bit of a false equivalence, because Black Panther, it was focusing more on like normal him. I don't know what his name is in universe aside from Black Panther. Whereas with Snoke, it's just like, oh, it's the Sith Lord that trained Kylo Ren. That's really all we need to know. Whereas with Black Panther, the normal guy was just kind of there. And then out of nowhere, oh, it's Black Panther. We're not going to explain where he came, where he really fits into the story aside from his dad died. But he's Black Panther, so just accept it. That's more of my problem with him, because I feel like he was utilized all right. It was just the introduction.
Is that hard to accept? What's the sort of the part that's sort of hard to chew on? I'm trying to sort of figure this out with you.
I I guess it's really just I don't feel like he was introduced in a way that really established who he was in what I would deem at least to be an effective way. Aside from, oh, well, he's Black Panther now. That
Hmm.
was it. Just felt really, really random to me.
I think that it will feel at least a little bit random uh, until if the movie does what I'm expecting it to, Black Panther, then it'll feel fine in universe, and the writing should be pretty much solid for Civil War. But maybe Black Panther should have come out before Civil War. I could settle for that at least.
I feel like if Black Panther did come out before Civil War, that might have alleviated some of the issues with it. It was that he was introduced in this movie and we're not really given any context aside from it. He's just Black Panther. That was more my issue with it, and maybe the new Black Panther movie will fix all of those problems. I'll give it that. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt for that. But
Hmm.
that was my main problem is that it's just kind of contextless. Oh, well, here's Black Panther. He's in the movie now. Now, I don't feel like he was utilized too ineffectively. I get why he had a reason to fight against who was it that accidentally killed his dad?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, his involvement made sense. It was just I wasn't too keen on his introduction. And
So
compared to Ant-Man,
I think I'm getting it. If we clarify, just like in terms of putting this guy in this universe with the information we currently have, for if we get all the backstory we need from Black Panther, the reason why he's joined into this whole all this shit in Civil War, for me, the writing's tight on that. It's just that we don't know enough about him, so we do have a sense of confusion with the film. Like, are we just going to have random superheroes joining every once in a while now? I thought we used to establish this sort of thing. Is it
that
that sort of aspect?
yeah, that's more of the problem I have. Because
Okay.
I'm perfectly fine if they had established a little bit more about him. It's just that he felt kind of out of nowhere. Not that he had a bad involvement in the story, because I get why he's important. It's just that the way he was introduced just felt really rushed and half baked to me.
Okay. See, because the reason why I can sort of settle on that is because there's another crux of this argument that I think we've got sort of waiting in the wings, which is your problem is that there's too much setting up other films as opposed to being its own film, sort of thing. While I would be arguing the film is so much its own film that setting up the other films is just a cool bonus.
Yeah, you
So
can.
do you want to tackle that next?
Yeah, I will. I will end off by saying that Black Panther I have far less of a problem with than Ant-Man and Spider-Man. Like those two in
Hmm.
particular, I have a far larger issue with.
I'd say for me, Ant-Man is the worst. Spider-Man, I don't know how you could do Spider-Man any better than what they did in the film if you were forced by a studio to put him in, which I know that's not a fair argument. What studios forced to happen is like, no, 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 I know, but I think the scene with Spider-Man is pretty much nailed it. Like, I don't know if they should have any more. They don't, other than maybe his film coming out before Civil War. That would also help. But then that takes place after Civil War, so I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't have any problem with how he was introduced. It's more just he didn't really offer much aside from like establishing that he's a character. Beyond that,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll let that go. Like I said, it's to me it's the right. I always come back to how the writing was tight for it. He wasn't that good. Spider-Man really wasn't. I don't considering Homecoming. I know you said you haven't seen it. Homecoming is about him being really shit and then getting to be pretty okay from learning a lot of shit.
yeah, I kind
Um,
of gathered that from the trailers at least.
yeah, it's a different kind of origin, which is again like I really think they did a good job with Homecoming.
Aside from the
So anyway,
posters,
the main plot of Civil War. So we're talking about the Accords and then the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America. So how do you feel about that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You kind of cut out a little there.
Okay, so the topic of the Accords, like set by the government or the UN, along with Iron Man and Captain America's conflict, that to me is probably the strongest part of the film. So what's your perspective on that?
I would say, yeah, that's probably the strongest part, but I feel like the it should have focused more on the Winter Soldier part because that I felt was really, really underdeveloped in comparison to the idea of them having to choose between staying as they usually are or putting limits to what they can do. I felt like that was okay. It's just the Winter Soldier part that I had more of an issue with.
So I kind of want to just I'll try and run through some stuff quickly at least. We could try and I guess I was thinking, does it make more sense to do the Winter Soldier thing after or before going through the plot? Probably after, I guess, because it's kind of a B plot, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it ends up being the most important end. It's the end to the film, despite it being a B plot.
Yeah. Either one, I don't really mind what we start
okay.
with.
So, do you see? Because this is a common complaint the film gets. Do you think that they're on the correct sides, Iron Man and Captain America, as in to their characters?
To their characters, I guess I didn't really.
Like, because a lot of people said that they should have been reversed, which like I completely disagree with. So I was just going to say, if you're okay with that, we can just move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree or disagree with it. I'm just kind of neutral on that. I'll accept the scenario.
So let's go like just to the first oh, you did. I remember, Kieran, you had a problem with how he just bumped into the black lady, right?
Yeah, I felt like that was kind of really random how he was getting on an elevator, but when this black lady comes in and tells him, "Oh, hey, my kid died," and was it in the Avengers 2 that Age of Ultron that her son died, or was that a different thing entirely? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, she tells him that her son died from Age of Ultron, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It felt like, if anything, Age of Ultron itself, like everything that happened in there, would have convinced him for that scenario rather than, this woman, her son died, so he's most important, rather than all the people he's brought to harm throughout his own trilogy in the other Avengers movies.
I appreciate the whole I feel, because it's obviously like, you know, you're avoiding sort of saying like this is factually blah blah blah, but it's just like I can't hugely work with how you feel about it. You know, I always have I can only tell you what happened and how I feel about it. So we'll have to see how you think about this. So we've got she was waiting for him the whole time. Like they give us the clip for how he notices the elevator's not even been pushed. She's just been waiting there for him once he finishes his little talk. How she managed to orchestrate that's not a huge shock. It's a university. She probably just put some effort into getting herself into this position because, you know, her only goal is to share with Iron Man that he's not a hero. He thinks he is. The Avengers have fucked up several times, and she wants to put it to him that he's the only person she can actually focus the anger on, right? Because that would be the awesome. If you were this person, that would be your scenario. Your kid's been killed as a result of collateral damage from these heroes that fight their battles. And if it is, especially, by the way, they obviously don't tell us this, but if it was gotten out that it was actually Iron Man's fault all to begin with Ultron, then that just makes it that much, you know, more passionate hatred for him. But either way, I understand why she's pissed at him, and the film tells us how she put herself in this position. So all we got left is, why does Iron Man take this so seriously? So there's a little thing going around the internet for a little meme. I didn't actually notice this myself, but it is an interesting tidbit. Throughout the Iron Man, I think it's in Avengers and Iron Man 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, something like that. But he makes a lot of noise about how he doesn't like anyone handing him things at all. And we've got Iron Man 3 with the whole PTSD aspect. They do it horribly in the film. However, the information is that he has PTSD from flying into the portal in Iron Man 1, as well as the whole war itself. So he's very on edge, is the whole point of his character. We already knew this. So she shoves the thing into him after he actually thought that she had a gun or whatever. And she says the name, she said what he was doing, and she's like, look at the picture, you killed him. Now, you could be like, why would that bother Iron Man compared to, like, he knows that a load of people died, right? And it's like, well, can you picture the difference that, like, the presidents always have? Like, so you press buttons and bombs go off. You get told bomb has gone off in somewhere and this many people died. It's all numbers on a screen. It's not exactly like, usually sort of, it's like, yeah, I can see that. But then, like, if a family member came up to you, tears in eyes about one person that you've just taken from them, and, like, they make an actual point of it, like, which do you think is going to affect you more?
I'll agree with that. I feel like the movie, and again, as you pointed out, most of my gripes with the movie are just personal things. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just I wasn't really keen on it.
I'm kind of sorry I spent so long on that, but you know what I mean? Like, this is why, you can probably tell why I think this movie's so good, right? Like, this is how much depth I find with all of the scenes.
Well,
I feel that they actually put in. I may be giving them more credit, but you're welcome to call me out on anything you think that I'm dragging from nowhere.
Well, no, I think that I understand why people liked it. I understand the reasons why a
Hmm.
lot of people liked that movie. Most movies that are kind of in the gray area of people either really like it or really hate it, I understand why they like it. And I didn't really hate Civil War. I didn't hate it at all. I thought it was a all right movie. It's just that storytelling wise, I thought it could have been done more effectively. But it, I understand exactly what you're saying with the scenario with the woman going up to
Hmm.
Iron Man.
Because like the effort I just put into that scene, like I understand the idea that's like we should probably save that for more important sort of things that break. But if you really do find the story to be, I don't know, like fine. I'm just trying to find like if you can find the weakest part, so I can maybe try and stitch it up a bit. Because my argument is that the film is great. I use that word cautiously, right? Because I don't label many films that way. Not incredible, none of the superlative words, but great. It is a solid like 8 out of 10 from my perspective, objectively. And I want to make a video about it eventually, arguing in depth why this film is so fucking good. So I'm not going to have you here for 10 hours. I want to try and see if I can sort of maybe mend your perspective of it a little bit by going for things that maybe you do consider quite strong weaknesses. But I'm more so focused on the writing because, you know, like CGI special effects, all the involvement of characters where maybe they shouldn't have been, to me is sort of, these are sort of like a little bit superficial. I'll like say the characters thing is a little bit more important, but they're still superficial to the story being told. So if we can sort of, I don't know if you want me to refocus sort of thing.
Well, I'll go back to the Iron Man and his motivations just real quick,
Hmm.
because I perfectly agree with you on him being more affected when someone goes up to him and tells him personally something that affected her life. I just, in that sense, in that scene in particular, I understand exactly why it would have affected him. I feel like it could have been done a little bit better if it put more emphasis on he had already done a lot of things in his own movies and in the Avengers that could be considered pretty questionable. Instead, the movie makes it seem as though that's the one thing that makes him
Oh, okay.
completely
Seem.
change.
Because I was going to say, like, he has done extremely questionable things, and the films have led up to him doing this,
Yeah,
and that was a catalyst, if you will, for something. But I don't
yeah,
think you can blame her doing that to him on any other scene, as in, like, it doesn't lead to anything aside from him sharing it with the other Avengers. Because at this point, I'm pretty sure Iron Man's already on board with the Accords, because we get the scene immediately after with Captain America and some others being told that Ross is waiting for them, and he puts it on all of them. And then Captain America said Iron Man's already agreed to it, like he already knows.
yeah. I like I said, I pretty much agree with his reasoning. It's just that the
Hmm.
movie made it seem like that one thing was his entire reason for doing it, rather than a culmination of everything he's done, which I
Yeah.
feel like the movie could
So,
have better portrayed.
sure, we could have had Iron Man sort of at least share with another character why he does see, you know, the other atrocities adding to this. But they do have the scene with Ross basically going over the worst the Avengers have done, and Iron Man's there for it. So like I'm arguing kind of for subtlety here. I adore Iron Man's character, and I infer from the scenes that Iron Man has gone from in one being a reckless vigilante to all the way up into Civil War being like, no, there are mature ways to go about this. We need to be responsible for our actions. We need to be, he says, put in check.
Yeah,
Um, and this is all as a result of all the horrible shit that's happened. And I think the biggest factor is easily Ultron. Iron Man created him, and he killed countless people.
yeah. It's just that the way that the movie. I mean, if we go by the assumption that you brought up with him like already being on board with the Accord before that conversation, if you
Hmm.
assume that, then I don't really have much of a problem. It's that the movie made it seem like the only reason they had the conversation about the Accords was because of that one specific thing rather than culminating everything, which I feel like the movie didn't do a great job of
Yeah,
showing.
I guess I would say that I would say the film for this is for me, so this will be a subjective argument. For me, the conversation with the woman in the elevator sealed it. So it was all something that Tony was edging towards. He was like, "This is we're gonna have to do this. Yeah, yeah, this is gonna happen probably because this is." And then he had like I said, it's a very different experience. He knows the numbers, he knows the actions, he's seen the damage, and then he had like a tearful mother tell him directly. I was like, I think he's had all of the build up to basically say this is happening now, like, enough.
Yeah, I'd agree
And
with
so
that.
it tipped him over, is what I would argue. But again, like it could have been clearer in the film. I guess I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Because the one thing he does do with the Avengers is he opens his argument with the killed son of that woman, instead of opening his argument with, the Ultron thing. But I guess you could argue that he might not want to do that because that was all his fault. So, it's more him than the Avengers. But
Well, it was Ultron that killed her son in the first place, so it kind of is all his fault. But
it is all, yeah, that's definitely, he's responsible for the biggest atrocity. However, Captain America is responsible for the second biggest one.
you mean?
And I was gonna, like, I'm sort of implying here, do you know what I'm referring to?
You mean like all those giant ships falling out of the sky and the Winter
That's
Soldier?
the one.
Okay.
A lot of people argue that that's not good motivation because you wouldn't have killed that many people if it did like crash down and there was anybody there. I was like, it's not just that. Those things are established to be worth like hundreds of millions. This is the government's property, and the Avengers, because one of the Avengers decided that this is like something that can be used for evil, because this is tying in with Captain America's character, which is why I love it. Those things can be used by evil people to do evil things, and they were about to, right? They were about to kill like 1/3 of the population or some shit like that. I can't remember what the thing in Winter Soldier was, but so he was like, let's get rid of him. Let's just get rid of him. He crashes them all into each other, and it's just like, if you were the government, I know this is a silly thing to say, but if you were the government and you were like, what do you mean? You can't just, why did you do that? Do you know how useful those things are in the fight against basically any threat? As the Avengers just decided, no, they need to be destroyed because we don't like who used them before. Is like no responsibility sort of thing.
I don't entirely agree with that. I do understand like the perspective, but I would assume they'd have the evidence to show that the ships were literally about to kill millions of people. If they didn't have evidence, then I could understand the government thinking that way. But
oh,
I'm
right,
pretty
but it's
sure...
a gun. You understand? Like, so it's not, you could say to the government, this gun was about to be used to kill this person. It's like, okay, you don't need to destroy the gun. We have it now.
Well, if the gun is like automated to start killing all those people, and there's only one person that can stop it before all those people die, I feel like that would be a fair justification, though.
I guess it would just come down to like, it is, if we're talking from the perspective of why the government are pissed off at Captain America, we don't necessarily need it to follow logic, because the government aren't necessarily that. They are more about the bottom line as well as about power.
Yeah, that's true.
So is it in line with what you would expect from a government, is my question, rather than a reasonable person?
From a government, yes. Reasonable people, no. But,
Yeah,
we are talking about the government.
I happily concede that. I was going to say, within the storyline, Ross is working for the UN, I believe. So, it's perfectly reasonable for... If the UN were told, we have this super powerful weapon, the Avengers just took it from us, it would be like, their reasoning is you could use it to kill people, or it could be automated too. They'd just be like, yeah. Well, all of our shit could be used to do that.
Well, it wasn't that they could, it's that it literally was being used for that at that exact moment.
Well, sure, but what if, like Tony had created some AI that got into the nuke system for everything, was about to fire them all, and then so as a result at the end of the film, they decided to take all the nukes and fire them into space. Like, the planet would erupt with rage. You imagine the political climate is what I'm kind of saying. Like, you can't just do that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. So yeah, the whole him saying that, the scene itself did contain all of the scenes that I think were perfect scenes, by the way. They had the Hulk fuck up a whole bunch of people for no reason, Captain America crashing those ships, Scarlet Witch fucking up a whole bunch of people in that building, and I'm pretty sure there was 4 clips, right? See if I can find them, because I was just like, they chose all these oh yeah, obviously the last one was Ultron.
Yeah.
So it's 4 instances of the Avengers either fucking up or doing something that they thought was right. That would be the Captain America one. But it's the whole theme is irrelevant of responsibility, right? There's no repercussions for them. Enough is enough. And I actually said to myself before seeing Civil War, I was like, how the fuck has it taken this long? During this scene, I was like, it's taken way too long for the government to step in.
That's
Like,
another
I'm glad
issue I
that they
have.
finally had. Well, you
because
you have to blame the other films for not having happened, but you do get Iron Man gets in a little bit of trouble in Iron Man 2, I believe. The government do threaten to take his shit from him, right? And they
yeah,
get
because
Rhodey to steal at least one Iron Man suit. That's the result. And then Iron Man
that
3
was
sort of
the
forgets about it. See,
yeah
and so for me, it's like, well, this is either a criticism of Marvel writers or the writers of the individual films, because I think that Iron Man 3 is like dog shit. And if they'd made Iron Man 3 Civil War, I mean, this would change a whole bunch of shit, but if you just follow me on this, it's like, well, that would have made more sense. Civil War happened when it could. Like, I can't really have a problem with it in terms of, like, there's so much other shit we'd have to consider to say whether or not that happened on time. I'm so glad it happened rather than didn't, because it doesn't make any fucking sense in this world to not have this issue. And, you know, once everything calms down after Infinity War and all that shit, I expect this to come back up. Because you know why they're doing this is because there's no evil people right now. So it's more, we got to get back to politics. We got to get back to these superpowered beings are running around our world, killing people they deem bad and saving people they deem good, and doing shit with weapons that they want. Enough is enough. They work for us. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
yeah. I totally understand the scenario, and like I said, I think it is a good scenario. It's just that the way they introduced that scenario that I had a problem with because, like we already established, this hasn't come up despite there being what there was like almost 10 movies at that point, if not more.
I mean, is who's like, where's the fault lie with that though? Because I would say that's the writing of the other movie's fault.
Sure, but that's only one of the problems because that hasn't been brought up before, and because the first thing that brings this conversation into play in the first place is Tony Stark having that conversation with that woman at the elevator. It makes it seem as though the only reason the government cares at this point is because Tony Stark had this conversation with the woman in the elevator and then brought it to their attention. It was just the way they portrayed it that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I did like the
So
scenario itself.
So there's another detail that I've completely forgot about, but I was just thinking about now. The government were controlling Shield. Shield controlled the Avengers in like contractually, sort of,
Yeah.
and Shield was dissolved in the film just before Civil War. So thinking about it again, because this is again, I'm not perfect at this. With that detail, I think this actually does make sense within timeline.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of does in that sense. It was
Because the government would step in once they have no way to actually control them, which was Shield, but Shield's gone.
Yeah, it was more just that one interaction with Tony Stark and how they proceeded to bring up this conversation in the first place that I wasn't a big fan of, because the movie made it seem as though that was the thing that started this whole thing, even though it's technically not. It's a culmination of everything. I feel like the movie just badly portrayed that and made it seem as though, okay, he's going to open up with this one kid died rather than all these things happened. Oh, and this kid died. And now we're having this conversation now after that.
I was just gonna say, like, I thought the film's inciting incident was easily the logo, the Lagos thing. Like, Iron Man bumping into that woman wouldn't have affected whether or not Ross came to see the Avengers, you know? And Ross came to see the Avengers specifically after the Lagos thing because of the people in Somalia like had a huge issue with this, so the UN is now having to step in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
You would, like, I look at that as the inciting incident, and then the lady at the elevator just informs a bit more for what Iron Man is motivated to do, which is also informed by his mistake with Ultron, other movies, right? Which just pushes it all. So, I mean, this is what I mean. Like, to me, that seems airtight, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I just feel like that one interaction could have been done a little bit better, because I don't have a problem with him having that conversation, and I don't have a problem with the Lagos incident being the reason that they had that conversation. I felt like, if anything, it was probably just like the order of how those events happened, and then the conversation.
Yeah, no, it's like immediately after, so I could understand that. Like, if they'd had that scene with Tony, actually, honestly, in a previous film, and then he brought it up in this film, that might have been a more interesting connection.
Yeah, I feel like
Because
it
we would
was
have been
more.
like, oh yeah, I remember when he was shown that.
I feel like it was more just assembled in a way that could have been done better. Not that it was not that those ideas, sorry, were actually bad in and of themselves, but that they could have been done in a different order. And that's probably what could have fixed the whole problem in the first
Like
place.
try and would you say like try and push the elevator scene far earlier than the Ross discussion, is it?
Yeah, I even like you said, putting it in the last movie
Oh,
might
but
have
another,
worked
yeah,
better.
yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. All I would say is that that tweak, I would say, like it just adds on a few extra. Like it's like a sort of nudge quality up, as opposed to like it's not really significant. I'm not saying you're saying it's significant.
Yeah, I mean that's not really a huge part of the movie because more the biggest problem I have is that I feel like there's too many characters to be dealing with too many situations that lead to too many different movies rather than focusing on its own thing. Because the scenarios I'm perfectly fine with. And I actually did
Hmm.
think that the idea of the Avengers having to keep their powers in check and going against each other because obviously there's not going to be unanimous agreement on that subject. I did like that scenario. I thought that was actually pretty cool. It's just it felt like too cluttered to deal with that situation, especially when it only came down to like one battle and then that was kind of it for the whole movie.
I mean, like I said, I totally am on board with how it would feel that way. I just feel like the film has given you all the information you need to explain why everybody's turned up.
Sure. I mean,
So like
I
it doesn't
understand.
feel.
I understand why they turned up. That's not the problem. The problem is that I just think that it wasn't necessary for that many characters to take part in it.
Yeah, I just be stuck at I don't know why it needs to be necessary, I guess.
Well, there was another part that I wasn't too keen on. The all the I think it was everyone on Captain America's side ended up in a jail and they were in there for
Hmm.
like a day and then he immediately freed them. It felt like that was kind
Yeah.
of unnecessary to do considering that it didn't really change
Oh,
anything.
uh, sure. Obviously, the point of it was though he was wrong. The Iron Man was well, no, the Captain America. Nobody was wrong. Iron Man was right. That I feel like we needed the prison scene to bring a bit more concrete perspective to Iron Man's side because he keeps warning that if they don't listen to him, they're going to end up being criminals. And like Hawkeye even used the he says the word criminals as well when he said like that's not supposed to mean us. And the last argument that Iron Man and Captain America have before it all breaks down at the airport is he says that either we take you in or a group. He says something like a pack of JSOC guys with no compunction about like I don't know beating the fuck out of you basically. Because as strong as the Avengers are, not only can they probably not win against the forces of Earth, but also why would they want to beat the forces of Earth? You know, that's the place they're
Yeah.
defending.
I
So
understand why they did it in the movie in the context of the situation they were in. I just felt like to have that last for such a short time and then to have it negated like what like 20 30 minutes later, I felt like that didn't really add much to the
yeah,
movie.
I probably would have saved it for Infinity War, breaking them out. Because obviously you know why they're breaking out, right? Is because they're going to be involved in all the fights in Infinity
Oh
War. We
yeah,
got to get our heroes
I
out of there.
totally understand it. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
felt like them being in there for such a short amount of time and then immediately breaking out just kind of negated the whole point of them being in there in the first place.
Yeah. Um, from like I guess a filmmaking standpoint, I guess I could agree with it. Like I said, I'm just more concerned with this it matching the story, motivations, characters. If it does, then I can easily let it go. In terms of it's like looking at it on paper versus the actual how everything runs out. So you'd be like, they end up in the prison in one scene, and then literally like the next scene they're broken out. So why did they even go there in the first place? And I would answer that question. But if it still feels like it was just unnecessary, then there's nothing I can do, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand story wise why it happened, and I agree with
Yeah.
you that narratively it's fine. Well, even then, I kind of have a problem with it narratively just because it happened so quickly.
I
But
mean, it's the government. They capture them. Where are they going to take them? immediately to jail, and not just any jail. This is a high, like maximum security in the middle of the ocean because these people are extremely dangerous.
Well, that's not the problem I have with them being in that jail. It's just that they got out like almost as soon as it was established that they were in a sense.
Do you mean like there's no sort of connecting scenes between them losing the airport and then ending up in the prison?
It's not so much that, it's just that it makes it seem as though they were in there for a short period of time and then got out too quickly.
Sorry, I did get like cut.
Oh yeah, I just felt like it came out too quickly. Like they were in there and then, all right, they're out now. I don't even think it showed how
Yeah,
Captain
okay.
America made it in there.
Like as I get, it's sort of like a block. I can't do anything else with that.
Yeah. Did it ever show how Captain America got in there in the first place? Because I'm pretty sure he
Oh,
was
I
one
have
of the
I
guys that was
actually
supposed to be
I have a
there.
problem with that. I don't see. I could understand Tony doing it. I don't see how Captain America did it really, and I don't know if they're going to explain it in Black Panther, as in he used Black Panther's technology or something. But I don't see how Captain America, without his shield, manages to not only break into but destroy all the guards and then break out them. It happens in like the last what, like 10 seconds of the film. So to me, I was just like, okay.
Or just how
It
he
looks
got
to
there in
me,
the first place, because it's in the middle of the
yeah,
ocean.
that too.
And
No, I completely agree with all of them. I could I could believe it if they just gave me anything. There's no reason why Captain America would be able to pull that off. Even if they actually argued that Tony helped him, but they don't. Tony has no idea this has happened, as far as I can tell.
yeah, the movie definitely didn't make it seem like he knew that was going to happen. And even if he
Yeah, he
did,
looked
it
like
wouldn't
he
make
didn't know.
sense. It wouldn't make sense for him to
Yeah,
just
no,
like
it
let it
wouldn't.
happen.
It's balked, and I'm pretty sure the only reason it happened was so that they're free for Infinity War, which is a cop out, and that's yeah, I'd happily agree that's a bad piece of writing.
Yeah, it. I'm perfectly fine with them being in the jail. It's just that it played such an insignificant role in the grand scheme of the movie that it could have just not happened at all, and it wouldn't really have changed much.
Yeah, my perspective, like if we had watched it together, right, and you'd said that, I'd be like, my perspective is, I thought it was kind of goofy that there's this because I think Iron Man even says like enormous terrifying ocean pokey. That's what he describes it. And I was like, when you see it, you're just like, what the and then it's gone, and you're just like, okay. But like I said, like my brain sort of splits it in two. It's like I could feel that about it, but I was like, but quality wise, yeah, it's fine. I can assume the government have this place. It's even as ridiculous as it is, or they built it as a precaution for the heroes that are defending them going rogue or something, or potentially for the Hulk. That could also make sense.
I
And
didn't
so they
really
just
have
ended
too
up
much.
there immediately.
I didn't really have too much of a problem with the concept of it. It was.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I mean, there's already been enough ridiculous things in the Marvel universe. That's probably like one of the least.
yeah.
I mean, we got
Probably.
flying aircraft carriers. That's a little bit more ridiculous than
I've
the
always wondered
underwater
how they'd
hero.
create enough power to be able to float when those things look enormously heavy. Like it's
I
fans, right? Like turbines.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the look of them. I feel like
Yeah,
a
no.
flying aircraft
And I
carrier
also
looks
consider them
kind
to
of
be like the
stupid.
bombers in Star Wars because they seem huge and they get destroyed easily.
Yeah, like little paper mache ships.
Like, do you remember Hawkeye fucks it up completely with one arrow?
Uh, what movie was that in?
Like he has an
Avengers?
explosive arrow. That's Avengers. He puts it into the turbine. I think he fucks up one of the turbines, and then someone else fucks up another one, and that's what brings it
Oh yeah,
down.
from the
And I
first
just remember
movie. Yeah.
thinking, like, Jesus Christ, Hawkeye, you're a powerful guy. Yeah, I have to admit, Mister, he has explosive arrows, and you managed to use one to completely like screw the aircraft carriers. They need
Yeah, that
shields,
it does seem
like really
like
good shields.
if you're able to like literally make an aircraft carrier fly, as ridiculous as the concept of a flying aircraft carrier is, that it would have a little bit more hull integrity than like just
Yeah,
one
yeah,
exploding arrow. And granted, yeah, it is exploding, but eh,
yeah. And that's the kind of shit you get with Marvel, like a lot. That's the kind of like weak writing you get with them. Just trying to think like so. I don't know if it feels like I'm kind of skipping, but I do want to talk about the end conflict between Iron Man and Captain America. I remember you having an issue. There's some kind of issue you have with it, right?
it was more just how that storyline, particularly with the Winter Soldier, was just really pushed to the side and like almost not even there for most of the movie.
Um, this is weird. I've not actually, because that's the first I've ever really heard of that is from you. And not to say that other people don't share it, I just haven't heard it. So like, I'm not really prepared. I just like, he's Bucky is sort of he was the bad guy ish. He was sort of like the hand of the bad guy in Winter Soldier, wasn't he? And the history was going to be, we find out that he was brainwashed. So you're kind of expecting like a film focused on like maybe a Bucky film, is it? Or
Maybe not like one focused all specifically on him, but I felt like for putting so much emphasis on him in the second movie and him just being kind of because he just leaves after he drags Captain America out of the river, right?
yes, that is the last I
Yeah.
think we've seen of him up until this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you can argue that like he got a conscience then and then stopped going back, or did he go back to the people that were brainwashing him after
Oh
that?
well, so he was cut from the brainwashing when he saved Captain America because otherwise why would he? And then he
Okay.
went into hiding, is what Civil War is telling us.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really remember if he went back there or
Yeah, yeah.
not. But I feel like it should have focused a little bit more on that because there's so much interesting stuff behind that storyline. And for him to play such a hugely important role in The Winter Soldier, obviously, since, well, it's named after him,
Mm-hmm.
it just feels like to make the following movie about something to do with the Avengers and not him just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I feel like they could have done so
Um,
much more cool stuff if they focused more on his story, especially with that personal aspect with Iron Man's parents dying.
yeah, yeah. So if I'll cut out Iron Man for a second and then just sort of plot summary because I feel like there's quite a bit of Winter Soldier. So let me just like so we go. The place is blown up with the Somalian king. We find out Bucky did it, quote unquote. So then we need to find him. He gets flushed out. We do find him. He has no idea what's going on or who's responsible for it, but we get him arrested. Okay. We also know all the history from the other films. We're like, there's seriously something going on here. We just got to figure out what it is. The other guy is getting all of the notes and stuff. We don't know what that's about. But then we finally find out in the prison he uses it to brainwash Bucky again. So we're like, Jesus, like he still has this. And then once all that scene's over and Captain America actually gets him locked up in that weird like press thing, he does give us the history of the Winter Soldiers, which is the serum that he stole from Stark when he was creating the Captain America sort of serum, which I think was the point was it was like same but unstable. I can't remember the specifics of Captain America one's the reasoning for why he was able to you know not go crazy question mark I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really
But
remember either.
they have they show us all of the other Winter Soldiers going nuts, and Bucky's the only one they've got brainwashed to the point where he's not going to go nuts, quote unquote. I again, I'm not 100% sure on how the specifics of the Super Soldier Serum works. So they're all frozen, waiting in this place that Hydra owned, ready to be unleashed upon the world. Bucky knows about them, and he wants to, I guess, stop them, sort of thing, along with Captain America, because they're going to represent a huge threat. And it's like, okay. And then I don't know if you caught this, but I'm pretty sure they freeze Bucky at the end in the after credits scene, and they say that they want to basically try and save him from the brainwashing shit, because obviously that was a huge part of why Civil War even happened. So
Yeah,
to me, I was like,
I don't think I
that's quite
watched
a bit of
that.
info for him, isn't it?
I don't think I watched the end credits scene. Most of the time, I forget it's even there. I
Oh,
know that's
I
something.
don't blame you. I don't blame you whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't expect people to have to watch them. But all I'm saying is, like, that happened. If you wanted an explanation for, are they doing anything about the brainwashing? Hello, you know.
Yeah, I don't
So
have too much of a problem with the Winter Soldier story that they had there. It's just more.
you wanted more, is it?
Yeah, honestly, I wish that the movie focused more on that than on this Civil War part. I feel like Civil War should have been its own like Avengers movie instead of cramming that in with trying to wrap up all the loose ends from the past two Captain America movies.
I can understand that, but it is the only way that we get Captain America and Iron Man to fight each other is through the Winter Soldier's history.
True,
Like, so it
but
does intertwine in a way that we kind of need it to make this film work.
yeah, yeah, I'll give you that. It was more just disappointment that there wasn't more to it.
Okay.
Not so much that I
So
didn't
we
like it.
can I can easily explain the difference between us here is that I didn't really give a shit about Winter Soldier, the character. So I appreciate all of these extra bits that tie him to the story. And I was like, oh, that works cool. But I'm concerned with Captain America and Iron Man. And this is definitely tied to the fact that I don't particularly like Winter Soldier, the film, that much. I like it, but nothing too serious because I was blown out by the writing in that film. But I'm not able to reference it because I haven't seen it in so long. So I'll just, let that go as like, it's fine. It's just that I didn't personally care about him that much. You definitely cared about him more than I did.
I found
So
I didn't. It's not that I really had any emotional connection to him because he hasn't really been that established even when he was in the first Captain
so
America
you
movie. It was more just I
you just invest in
found
the story, is it?
it was more just I was really interested in the character and him as a villain. I thought that was a really cool
Mm-hmm.
part of Winter Soldier. And I wish that they had more of that in the third movie rather than just kind of made it a B plot. I felt like they could have made a whole movie based off of that instead of putting
Yeah,
two
because
movies in
I would
one.
agree with you. Winter Soldier is essentially all about the Winter Soldier's history and his use as I can't remember what the boss is trying to sort of start. This is my issue. Right? I wish I knew what happens in Winter Soldier better because I could at least sort of empathize with concluding his story better. But like I said, I just didn't really care about him. So to me, it was sort of like what they did for him in Civil War was just like, yeah, that's a pretty decent explanation of the history, I guess.
I kind of
Like
felt the
I wasn't.
same. I felt kind of the same way, not quite to as radical of an extent, about uh, how they concluded the Winter Soldier storyline in Civil War as I did with what they did with Snoke in The Last Jedi. I felt like they set up all this really cool potential to do something really cool with him, and they just kind of didn't really do much with it. Obviously, The Last Jedi was way, way worse, but
I was gonna say, yeah,
it's not
oof.
comparable. It's more just I felt like they had a lot of potential to do more with it, and they just didn't really do anything more with it. And I felt that was a little
Um,
disappointing.
yeah, because I was gonna say, we're pretty much locked there as well. Because like I didn't personally feel it was that bad. Is there any sort of criticism you can give to the writing in terms of just how it went down, or where they made any kind of mistake? Because
Like
like obviously I can't change how you feel.
like throughout the whole movie, or that plot line in
Oh,
particular.
with just the Winter Soldier sort of part.
I don't think. Well, there was one point that I had a little bit of a problem with. Not a huge one. It's not that big of a deal, but when I mean, did it establish that he knew he was being brainwashed, or that either of them, he or Captain America, knew that brainwashing was happening?
As far as I know, he never remembers what he does after he's hit with the brainwash,
Well,
and
yeah,
that's why
but
he knows he's brainwashed. If you know what I mean.
well, yeah, but he
Because
knew
he only knows people reading the words is all he remembers before he doesn't remember until he's back to normal.
Yeah, but he did know. He knew
Or
he was
actually, no, I
being.
could be wrong on that.
Well,
I'm pretty
I
sure he says I remember everything that happens. He might be a sort of like he knows he's aware of all of it, but he can't do anything.
yeah, I just didn't know if he was aware that brainwashing in particular was taking place, not so much the events he was doing during the brainwashing. I can't
Um.
remember if that was
Oh
established
yeah.
or
Well,
not.
I mean, I would. It's called a sleeper agent, right? Like that's the concept. I'm sure he knew that's that was what was happening.
I feel like because obviously he was brainwashed and wasn't really acting of his own accord when he killed Tony's parents. It felt like they could have just talked that out if they knew about it, and that could have avoided an entire fight scene. It wasn't a huge deal
Wait, say
because
that again. Sorry.
it, assuming that Captain America or Bucky or both of them both knew that he was being brainwashed, if they had just told Tony that, that could have avoided the whole fight scene. I
You
Again, I
well,
can't really remember if that
what
was
would that
established that they
achieve?
knew.
No, I was
Well,
gonna, so what, he's brain. So we've got a character who's brainwashed, who's attacking everyone. What use is it to say that guy's being brainwashed? It's like okay, but they still have to fight him.
he wasn't in that whole brainwashed state when they fought, so they didn't really need to fight him at that moment. But if
Hmm.
the whole reason that Iron Man attacked them in the first place is because he found out that he was the one that killed his parents, and I feel like
Oh
if
right.
they
Oh
just
sorry. What scene are we on? Is it you talking about the end now?
Yeah, the end scene when they're fighting.
Oh, so are you arguing that you feel like it's a little bit silly that Iron Man would have had a problem with him when he was obviously brainwashed when he did what he did?
Yeah, and the problem I have more so is that if Bucky and Captain America knew about that at that point of time, then they could have just told him that, and he'd be like, I mean, assuming that Tony Stark's like halfway rational, he would have accepted that response and said, "Okay, I mean, I can't really forgive you, but that's not as though you were in control at that point."
It cut out like in the middle piece of what you said, and I think it was like the most important bit. Sorry to have to get you to repeat it.
So yeah, well, luckily I'm still recording all of it, so maybe it'll do. Yeah, it was more so that I felt as though if both Captain America and the Winter Soldier both knew, or at least even just one of them knew, that the brainwashing was taking place, then they could have talked to Tony Stark about it and said, even though he did kill your parents, he wasn't in control. He was being controlled
Right.
by someone else, which, you
Hmm.
know, whether he accepts that apology or not, that's a totally different thing. I
Yeah.
felt like they could have at
This is
least talked
this is a
about that,
crux of
though.
the film. I know I get where you're coming from completely, but there's I don't see how any other reaction could have taken place for Tony. Um, so the I'm just gonna like I'll just rant for a little bit because Tony's just he's my favorite character in all the Marvel series. He's pretty much just nailed, and with all the development they have, it's exact. Okay, so opening scene we have Tony with MIT giving them all their budgets funded. And even the girl at the elevator says, "Does that help you with your conscience?" That sort of thing. And it's like that probably gives you an idea of why Tony's doing that. But he also shows off a new piece of technology he's developed, which allows him to you can relive memories, right? And so the scene plays out. It's parents, and they're saying things that are a little bit strange. Like his mum literally says to him in the memory, when he's looking away from his dad, he's like, "This is the last time you're going to see him. Tell him you love him." And he just looks away, and then she's leaving the room or something, and then Tony says, the real Tony says that this is how I wish it happened, and then starts going on about the technology itself. But basically, it gives you a setup that this is a guy who really like fucked up in terms of he didn't get to have closure with the parents that he had, and obviously he kisses the mum in the scene as well. He loves the mum. So just judging from the film alone, we've got a little bit of a setup there. In Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, it's established pretty strongly that he has father issues. I think it's Iron Man 2 that he's rejected from his dad in terms of doing anything like game wise, I think.
I don't think that was in
'Cause
Iron Man 2 because I don't think his parents were even mentioned in that movie. I think that might
oh,
have
it's
been.
definitely Iron Man 2 because he has to. His dad has the secret to making
Oh
something.
yeah,
Remember, like
yeah,
Samuel Jackson gives him like a briefcase,
yeah. Now I
and it's got
know.
like a.
Now I know what you're talking about. I forgot about that.
It's like a video that plays and it's got Howard in it, and I'm pretty sure we had Tony like runs in on the screen and he like wants to play with him or something, and he's like, "Get out of the way!" And like Tony's watching it. The point is, his dad cared more about his work than Tony,
Yeah,
and Tony loved him. And then we've got the scene where Captain America argues with Tony in the boardroom or whatever, and he mentions that he's having trouble with Pepper, and he says that his dad always managed to maintain everything with his mum despite going through all the business stuff. And then Captain America comments on how much he liked Howard, and then like Iron Man has this like almost vitriolic response where he's like, "Yeah, I hated you," because his dad idolized Captain America. He didn't want anything to do with Tony, and so they had a chaotic relationship where he wanted to love him, but he couldn't work out, sort of thing. There's a lot of scenes that really bolster it, is kind of what I'm getting at. And so you got that, plus the fact that he loves his mum, plus the fact that Tony is this narcissist, stays to himself person, really awkward with people when he's not insulting them, all this different shit. And it's all because of the fact that he was completely alienated from his parents, as well as they were killed before he could do anything about it. And now he's been shown a video of the guy who did it, and he's right next to him. So the last thing he does with all this information is ask if Captain America knew. Now, Captain America did, but he didn't tell him, as he justifies at the end of the film, is because he was trying to protect him. But then he said, to be honest, he was just protecting himself because he didn't want to have to. It's like, how does he get Iron Man to help him with Bucky if this is a thing that's happened? So it's a perfect storm, and Iron Man wants nothing to do with Captain America. That's like a stab in the back. You didn't tell him who his parents' killer was, And then I was going to say, you must like remember the scene. It's like a peak where he explains it like 3 times. He's like, he's brainwashed. It wasn't him. It's not his fault. Blah blah blah. And then he gets it straight to him directly, cleanly. And then Iron Man just says back, "He killed my mum." It's like, I don't know if you can sort of empathize, but I've asked this question to different people before. People who've told me they would never murder. I'm like, if someone was to brutally murder your parents in front of you, do you really think that you'd be able to hold back? Because like, I can happily admit I wouldn't. I would rip them to shreds. Like, you know, humans are inherently irrational. Iron Man is established to deal terribly with grief. Doesn't let it out. Doesn't talk about it. He's one that's going to explode when the right time comes around. And throughout the whole fight, he's angry. His eyes are like, you know, wide open. He does like a bunch of grunts. And when he grabs Winter Soldier, for one time where he's right next to him, he says, "Do you even remember them?" And like, Winter Soldier comes back with what I think is great about his character as well. He says, "I remember all of them." So like, he is an innocent guy, absolutely. Tony's innocent in all this as well. He's actually a victim. Captain America is easily the good guy, but like, all of this is set in place where it's just playing out exactly as it should, from my perspective. So I apologize for taking so long with that, but it's literally like my favorite element of the film, because Tony comes to a position that I think is, how else could he do anything else, basically.
You did mention something. I like I said, I haven't watched the movie in like over a year. Um, did they tell him that Bucky was brainwashed? Because I don't remember that.
Yeah, they make it. Captain America pretty much does it several. He keeps saying it wasn't him, Tony, and Tony says move. He doesn't give a shit.
Well,
It's kind of like, I did this analogy for a friend. Have you ever played any MOBAs?
not really, no.
Okay, this happens in games. You'll probably be able to associate with this, but basically, just when it's so much easier if you'd played a MOBA. Damn it, because it's harder to associate. The idea of tunnel vision, where you've got one clear like goal with conviction. You're like, this is going to happen. And in MOBAs, you get to the point where a kill is the most important thing ever, because it makes your team so much stronger as well as you, and it makes your enemy team weaker. So when you get to a point where you do something amazing, like knock them to 1 HP out of like thousands, it gets to the point where you're sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, I just need to do one more simple move to them and they're dead. And then you throw something that you miss. You throw something, an ally of theirs blocks it. Throw another thing and they use an invincibility move. And you just get angrier and angrier every time, because your only goal is to just delete them. And so you can chase them all the way through their defenses until you die, and then you lose the thing. That's pretty much what Tony's doing that entire fight. He doesn't give a shit. You could have told Tony that that's a clone. That's not even the one that killed Thingy, and he probably wouldn't have. He would have just ignored it. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. He's seeing red, I guess, is the concept, isn't it?
I understand that, but I mean, like, did they like explicit? I don't remember. Did they explicitly say that he was brainwashed, or was it just him saying it wasn't him? Because I feel like those are two very different things.
He says the last argument he gives him for it, from memory, is that, you know what, fuck it. If you give me like 2 minutes, I'll be able to tell you what the line is.
Because I remember,
because I can't quite remember it myself.
Because I do remember him saying that it wasn't him. I just can't remember if he actually told him that he was brainwashed. Because I feel like if they said specifically what happened rather than just saying it wasn't him, which could imply that it was just like that was a different part of his life, I feel like.
Oh, sorry. He doesn't actually. It's not the last line he says to him is that this won't change anything. Sorry. So it's not to do with the brainwashing thing, but he does scream at Tony, like, you know, there's only the one time I know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's more than one. But he keeps saying it wasn't him; he was controlled, and like, I can't remember if he actually. It's a good point. I can't remember if he explains to him after the whole situation in the gym and prison. You know, when he's in the block and he's brainwashed there.
Yeah.
But Tony does find out about the whole, like, he was innocent in terms of the attack on the T'Challa's people, at least. But yeah, he tells him that it wasn't. The line is there. I guess is what it comes down to. He tells Tony that it wasn't Bucky. He wasn't the one who did it, which, to be honest, isn't even true. But that should be more than enough reason for Tony to stop trying to kill him. You know, but it won't be, because Tony's not going to listen to anything he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, As much as we talked about this one point, I like I said, it didn't
No, it's
really.
super important.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it
I
didn't
think to the film is
really.
super.
It didn't really like affect me too much because I mean, I understood
Okay,
his motivation for why he ended up fighting them. I just I couldn't remember if like they explicitly said that he was brainwashed and he was being controlled through uh, however the whatever means
I
he was being
think.
controlled from, because I feel like if they did like tell him that, maybe he would have stopped. And I mean, if he didn't, then I would have accepted that too. I just don't remember if if they actually did explicitly tell him, because then that kind of leaves the question open of, well, could this fight have been avoided?
Um, what I'll do is I'm pretty sure the line has something to do with Hydra. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. I was like, thank God, my memory is that good. He says it wasn't him, Tony. Hydra had control of his mind, and then Tony says back, "Move."
Oh, okay. Well, I'll
So like,
accept
I'm not saying
that.
this is like gotcha. I'm satisfied because I was like, he did say Hydra. I completely forgot, but I had like a niggling memory of it.
No, like I said, I
So yeah,
mean, I should have watched the movie last night. I just haven't watched it in such a long time. I didn't
it's
remember if they
totally
actually said that.
honestly, man, it's okay because this is not a winning losing thing. This is literally just I'm interested in trying to sort of raise the film's quality in your eyes, if you know what I mean.
Well, it raised that part at least. Yeah, I just didn't remember. It's been
Yeah,
a
yeah.
while since I watched it, so I genuinely all I remembered was that they started fighting, and I was like, couldn't they have just talked about this? So I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got the proof for me there, so never mind on that point.
That's cool. So is there more? Because yeah, I should probably just sort of pivot to. Is could you think of a most significant problem, and more so in the writing as opposed to something like additional characters or not that you said is significant, but like color grading, I can't do much with that.
I mean, like I said, I don't really have too many like huge issues with the movie because I don't think it's a bad movie, and I do understand why people like it. I know a good chunk of it comes down to the fact that Marvel movies for me just aren't as interesting. I mean, there are ones that I liked. I really liked the first Iron Man. I really liked Winter
Hmm.
Soldier. I had problems with Doctor Strange, but ultimately I liked it. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy too. There are movies that I actually do like from the MCU. It's just that for the most part, it is part of my personal preference that I'm not a huge fan of them.
Yeah, no, and honestly,
So
I think this has been a good conversation. And I totally understand. I could understand anybody not wanting to watch any Marvel films because of there are genuine problems. There's a genuine rot that can travel through them, especially if you can spot patterns yourself about certain things that they do. I can get past any of that with the element of I love watching superheroes do superhero things. However, I have no compunction about literally watching one of them and going, well, that was shit. And I have in the past. But Civil War kind of blew me away, as nitpicky as I am with story plot, like as anyone would have seen with the Star Wars stuff. I couldn't like every time I looked for stuff to sort of criticize in Civil War, it either was fine and answered somewhere, or it would end in a sort of like, oh, well, yeah, but you could sort of solve that with a small tweak. So, So I was like, how do I be honest with myself and not say that this film is like basically it's the best assessment I've ever had of a Marvel film, so it's the best Marvel film to me. Um, so when
yeah,
people are like, ugh, it's kind of blech, I'm just like, really, really, I really want to talk about it. Is kind of where I'm coming from.
yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'd probably well, I don't even remember all the how many Marvel films there are at this point. Way too many. Um,
Wait, too.
I I wouldn't call it a bad movie. I'd call it like like a all right movie. It's just part of my personal preference that I don't really like Marvel movies in general. But I
Yep, makes
don't.
sense.
It's not really that I have any huge issues with Civil War. It's just that I feel like there could have been things done differently to make it a bit more effective.
Oh,
Because I liked Winter Soldier. I really loved that movie, and I felt like Civil War wasn't. It just lacked some of the structure that the previous movies had, or maybe not so much
hmm
the structure, but like it could have been done more effectively than it did. Because I don't really even especially have problems with the writing. I don't think it's badly written by any means. More so, I think that it could have been written better. Which I mean,
I
that's
would agree with that.
I
But
mean,
the caveat I would have is pretty much every film, most films can be written better. You know, like vast majority
sure.
of films can always be
I mean,
better.
I'm not putting this on the same level as The Last Jedi, in which case there is literally nothing you could possibly have written worse.
I was gonna say any change you make to the film has to be for the better. It's like, how could it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not in that case. And I know the criticism. I'm sure there's going to be 1,000 comments both on my end and on your channel of people saying, "Oh, well, he just wants it written better." That's a terrible criticism. It's not really so much of a
Well,
criticism, so much as
wait,
it just
hang on. Like, in your defense, caveat, like, there's going to be a bunch of arguments on both your and my fan bases bringing up where I'm wrong. Plenty of places that I've missed stuff. And the thing is, I'm just one guy. This is the best I've done with the information I have, and you're doing the best with the information you have. And I feel like it's been a pretty good conversation about the film.
oh yeah,
You know,
sure.
so think about that before you hit a comment, people.
Yeah, no, it's not so much that I know that saying I think it could have been better isn't really saying too much. It's just that personally, for me, I didn't feel like the movie was as great as people make it out to be. And again, yeah, I know that's not exactly super critical, but this Civil War wasn't really one of the movies that I had too many huge, gigantic issues with. I mean,
Well, so there's one other thing I just remembered from watching your video. You did say that sort of nothing really happens as a result of Civil War.
yeah, I feel like it kind of just. I mean, I feel the same way with Civil War as I do with a lot of movies in general, especially if it's like in a trilogy, like Empire Strikes Back. It's another great example of it. Just it doesn't really seem to have changed a whole lot by the end, especially with them all breaking
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
jail anyway. And that's kind of why I wish that they had focused all of these individual plot lines on their own movies rather than cramming all of them into one. Because I feel like if they fleshed them all out one by one, they could have individually been really, really good movies. But instead, they just
Hmm.
jammed them all into one movie, and that could have worked. Maybe if the movie was a little bit longer, because it's only like 2 hours, right?
Yeah, it's like 2 hours, 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, maybe if it was even closer to three, if they really fleshed things out, then maybe that could have worked. But I just feel like,
Well, it's actually, a fair point. Like, do you feel that there is ever going to be a Marvel film where you'll react like, "I love this"? Like, if the writing is where you really want it to be.
oh, well, there already are. I mean, maybe not love it in the same way as I love other movies. I wouldn't say that
Yeah.
I put any Marvel movies in my top 10, but I would say that there are Marvel movies that I really, really like. I still think Iron Man is an excellent movie, one of the best superhero movies I've seen, at least. It, there's definitely potential for Marvel to get up to that point because they have reached that point several times. It's just that for the most part, the majority of their movies, to me, feel like they don't really make any attempt to push the bar forward so much as they just like to stay in their safe little bubble and keep making
Yeah,
kind of
I could
generic
definitely
movies.
understand that. I mean, to be honest, dude, I went through a drought with Marvel. Like Thor 2, Iron Man 2 and 3. I remember seeing all of them. I wasn't a fan, like I said, of Doctor Strange. I actually got to a point where I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm just seeing Marvel films now because, why wouldn't I? Because they're Marvel films, I guess. Which is kind of a sad place to be in terms of trying to sort of, because I love these characters doing their thing. And then I had, my list of like my favorites. I'm not, you probably disagree with it and everything, but like my favorites are like Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ragnarok, Civil War, and Avengers. Obviously, Avengers, put that to the side because my point is that all of the ones I just mentioned have come out much more recently. So my sort of hype train for Marvel has gone way further up, especially with Civil War being, that's 2016. Yeah, so that's not even like 2 years old yet, I don't think. So I'm really happy to see what they come up with next, and I'll be scrutinizing Infinity War, hoping it's going to be as good as how I feel the writing is in Civil War, because they're on a good run for me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't really have any opinions on Infinity War. I like to try and reserve my opinions until the movie is actually out. I mean, obviously we
Hmm.
can look at a trailer like Solo and be like, well, that looks like shit, but um
Well, have you seen the Infinity War trailer?
Yeah, I have. I haven't seen the new one, but
Oh,
I
okay.
did see like the first one that came out, and it
I
looks
was gonna say, so you've seen
all
like
right.
the longish one? Is it like a minute or something?
I don't remember how long it is.
I guess it doesn't matter. Point is that like it looks, it's ambiguous enough to be like, ooh, this could be good, this could be bad.
Yeah, I
Ooh, who
mean, I
knows?
think most Marvel movies have trailers that
Yeah.
it's like it could be good. I mean, I thought that Thor 2 might be good from the trailer, but that's really not at all what it was
Mm.
like. um, but
Loads of
yeah,
people disagree with that, by the way. I'm on your side, but I know that that's gonna piss people off.
wait,
It's like,
there's people that like Thor 2?
yeah, yeah.
Why?
I know someone from my Discord. It's their favorite Marvel film.
What?
And I
How?
haven't spoken about it because I can't sit through the Thor films that well. Say, for example, I'm passionate about Thor, I would go for it, but like my experience with the Thor films is so just like, but Ragnarok, I was like having fun, right? You could probably understand that even if you didn't like it. The idea of Ragnarok being funner than Thor 1 and 2.
Well, that's not hard to do because they
Yeah,
were
because they're
both
just a
really.
bit bored.
I
But yeah,
mean,
loads of people do like it as far as I know.
that's weird because what's weird about Thor is that there's so much potential to make like him the best of all of the Avengers because you already have so much to go on with Norse mythology in general, but they just really, really did not do a good job with especially the first two movies. I will concede that the third movie is much better, even though I didn't like it. But it's it's strange to me that the first two movies in particular are so bad when you have so much good you
I
can
feel
go on.
guilty in agreeing with you because I know many people like it. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, but I'm like, oh fuck. For all the people who are like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, we're not going to explain it, but that's not what this podcast is about. So you're gonna have to just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good ideas with Thor 2. It's just that none of them worked.
I mean, oh wait. So just to clarify, did you like the scenes with Odin, Loki, and Thor, like sort of in the beginning of Thor 1?
Uh, Man, it's been a while since I watched that
I
movie.
know, I know. It's same for me, but I do remember enjoying the where he like shouts the shit out of him after Thor calls Odin a weak old man or something like that. I remember in the cinema. I think it was in the cinema. I was kind of like, oh shit, like these Asgardians are going to like this is some family politics. Like it's a good base, and then we end up on Earth for like three-quarters of the film, and I was like, love story, fish out of water. I want to kill myself, that sort of thing.
Uh, I don't really remember the shouting part of it because, like I said, I hardly remember that movie at all. Um,
Hmm.
I remember liking kind of his banter with his friends, not so much with Loki and Odin, but the others that I can't remember their names because they hardly played any role in any of those movies. But
Agreed.
I mean, they were killed off like immediately in Ragnarok.
Oh, dude, do you know how many people that pissed off? I remember reading about it because I wanted to know the criticisms of Ragnarok, and they were like the mishandling of these characters, and I genuinely was like, "Who are these people?" I was
I
like,
I mean,
I'm
I
sorry, I don't remember them.
I think it is kind of stupid that they killed them all off immediately, but I also don't really
Oh
care
yeah, yeah.
because they like played no role at all in
As
any of
far as
those
I know,
movies.
dude, the story goes that Taika Waititi said that there's just no space for them in the film, and that the best he can do is give them a send off, and they agreed as actors or something like that. And they were actually on board with it in terms of like, yeah, this is the best we're gonna get. And to me, I was just like, that's see, this is an objective insult to the first two films because the first two films, if you like them, obviously I didn't,
Which is like a whole
then
13
you will,
people.
yeah, if you like them, you will care about those characters because the film built them. You know, it may not have done it great, but it built them, and then it was like, no, fuck them. So to me, I'm like, yeah, that's not good on Ragnarok's part to just kill them so casually.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't really give that much of
It
a
reminds
shit
me of
because
Akbar, dude. It reminds me of Akbar.
no. Not Akbar. That's not even close to being the same thing.
Like I said, reminds me. Not the same thing. I agree.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
didn't really care. I mean, I did look at it and I was like, weren't those like Thor's best friends and they like had one line and one of them didn't have any lines and they just died, but I also didn't really care because they were so badly written in the first place.
See, I can't even. I'll agree with you. I can't even remember. I'm not even drawing from anything. If I was to say, yeah, that's true. maybe because this is the thing. I kind of want to go through the Marvel films eventually. So if I do watch them again, I'll try my best to actually figure out why it is I feel that way. But
I mean, I
I
can't
got
even
nothing to add to
really.
that. I just feel like sure.
I can barely even remember any of their faces, if that's any indication of how of how little they played.
It feels, dude. It feels like we are kicking it while it's down. You
It
suck, movie, and it's like, ow.
it was never up to begin with, so I guess it's not really.
Yeah, it was the only time we could kick it. I'm afraid. There's gonna be a comment talking about how good Thor 1 and 2 are. I guarantee
They're
it.
gonna be wrong.
In the YouTube video. It's gonna be really long, and it's gonna say you're an idiot at the end or something like
Oh yeah, that's how every intelligent YouTube comment goes. You're dumb.
that. So I was gonna say, like, I'm happy to say that we've wrapped up on Civil War because I've pretty much put forth how you probably discovered a pattern with me in Civil War. I'm like, I just want to talk about how well crafted the plot is. But you know, I totally see the room for feeling that the film is inadequate in certain places, and I'm not going to take that away from anybody. But like, do you see like the line being crossed in terms of like it feels this way, it feels this way? It's like yeah. But when you point to like specific things in the script, that's where I want to see where we can get in terms of like a middle ground, which I think we really did on loads of subjects there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand why you liked it, and I don't think any less of people that did like it because I do understand the appeal of the movie. And like I said at the beginning of this whole thing, a lot of this comes down to just my personal preferences when it comes to Marvel films in general. But I do understand like everything you said. I just feel like it could have been done better than what it was. But ultimately, I
Do you
mean,
think I was just going to say, with the fixes you've suggested, or some of the fixes we've suggested together, could you say, like, if those were there, how do you think you'd feel about the film?
well, ultimately, I'd have to say, like, I'd have to see the film because it always comes
Yeah,
down to
yeah.
execution. Because you can have all those things in there, but as The Last Jedi taught us, you can really badly execute every single good idea you have.
I was hoping you were going to say it can execute one thing, and I was going to be like, what do you mean? Execute everything horribly. I was actually going to say as well, because if you want to wrap up on that, then if you want to, like, I don't know, ask if anyone wants to ask any questions.
I don't really have that many questions. Not really anything I can think of.
I just mean, like, no, not you, you audience.
Oh, who cares about them? They're all
It's
stupid.
nice. It's nice to. I genuinely, if they want to ask anything about either of us, or we could just. I was gonna say try and pick a topic to rip into for a few minutes because I don't mind. Probably Star Wars because I feel like that's what everybody
Oh, that's easy. That's real
knows me
easy.
for. Yeah, I was gonna say. I just can't think of what topic have we actually not covered with Star Wars, at least in conversation or in our videos. And it's like, oh, there's probably a whole heap stuff.
Oh, I mean, every single time I even think anything about the movie, I just find something new wrong about it. So that you can go on for years about how bad that movie is.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a fun comment.
But you know,
Execute. Someone said, "Execute one thing." Ryan Johnson, come here.
oh man, you can't say that because I Hate Everything's video is predicated on the fact that people are sending death threats. That's his
Oh yeah,
biggest argument for the quality of The Last Jedi. You gotta be careful about that.
yeah. I hate everything. He makes really good arguments for everything except for Star Wars.
I said the same thing about Jenny Nichols as well. I get a lot of I get flack and appreciation for saying people's names, content creators. I think that you know it's cool to just be you know if I had said instead of what I said on my video, if I had said there are some people, you know, who think the Ragnarok's terrible, and those people don't know what they're talking about, and then someone in my audience could be like, is he talking about Son of Wolf or is he talking about blah, blah, blah? I just feel like it's almost like a Weasley prod, like you want to poke someone and run away sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I found your comment on me in your video pretty funny. So,
Well, good.
and then you have I hate everything. He puts in a bunch of thumbnails, and I'm so glad my thumbnail made it in there. That's fun.
Yeah, like I told you, we both made it into Movie Bob's video. And dude, something I noticed, I looked back, I didn't tell you. Out of all the videos in the suggested bar that he, you know, changed the name of to be funny, it includes me and yours, but mine's the only one that has the red bar underneath it, meaning that you've watched through it.
Oh,
So
well,
he's seen my video. But
well, I can never
obviously I
forgive him
didn't.
for that. Just looked at
I
my
imagine that
thumbnail,
he
called it good. No, he looked at my furry profile icon, and he was like, "No, never mind." which
Well,
is a
see, some people could
totally
probably just
reasonable.
describe my video as clickbait, right? Unbridled rage, and you see Anakin's face, you're just like, is this guy going to shout through all of it? This could be interesting. And it just opens with like this posh ass British dude being like,
I
"I'm going to
genuinely,
go through the film."
I really did
Wait,
think
what?
you were gonna like start screaming at the beginning. So when you actually made like really calm arguments, I was like, oh, this is totally different from what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, because the rage is at the end was the point that I lose my shit at the end because of everything compounding, and that is genuinely. I don't know if you had the similar experience, but like I said, I was a bit shell shocked on first viewing, but I knew something was heavily wrong. But once I thought about it more and more and more, I just got angry. I was just like, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, as I was watching it, I picked up on things where I was like, that's really fucking stupid. It was after the movie ended and I was driving home that I was like, this is the worst thing I've watched in this whole series. It's terrible. I was about to say all
I
year, but
like the
that's not true.
I like the idea that it's like it's not a good Star Wars film, sure, but it's a good movie.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's like
If
the
look
most.
movies,
That's
how
like.
bad are movies that you think this one's good?
I mean,
The fuck?
it's such a cop out answer too. It's like people say the same thing about. I don't know if you know much about the Halo games, but people say the same thing about the new Halo games. They're good games, but they're just not good Halo games. No, they're not good games either. They're really bad.
It feels. They said the same thing because I've got a series on Dark Souls. They said Dark Souls 2 is not a good Dark Souls game, but it's a good game. And I was like, nope, neither. Quit doing this weird excuse.
I
It
honestly
almost
haven't
feels like
played
an
Dark Souls
attempt at an
2.
olive branch.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, Dark Souls 2 is the only game in the series I haven't played.
Don't. Don't. Oh, wait, no, you can watch. I know this sounds like a total plug, but I was just like, if you find my video entertaining enough to last more than 10 minutes, then give my series a shot. It'll give you every reason why you shouldn't be playing Dark Souls 2 in detail.
Well,
And I
okay.
know that people are going to be annoyed at me for it. Like they should be like, let the guy play it for himself. But
I mean, I
yeah,
do own the game, so I probably will play it just because I feel obligated to because I bought it. But it's not even because I
oh,
thought it was
dude, you
gonna.
should stream it just so I can watch you suffer.
Well, in fairness, the only Dark Souls game I've ever completed is the third one. The first one I like, but it just runs really badly, and that's like the thing
Yeah,
that
yeah. Wait,
makes.
did you try DS Fix or?
For some reason, DS Fix didn't seem to do anything. I mean, it kind of boosted the frames, but not by a whole lot. And I figured I must have done something wrong, so I uninstalled the game and took out all the DS Fix files, redid it all, and it just didn't seem to do anything. I don't know what I'm fucking up there, but it didn't.
No, yeah, okay. No, that sounds frustrating. You gonna give the remastered one a shot, maybe then, because that obviously run better.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because I really want to complete the game. It's just that the how badly it runs, which is weird because I do. I mean, I don't have the greatest high-end PC ever, but I am able to run like most games on at least high to ultra at 60 frames. So, I mean, Dark
Hmm.
Souls 3, I'm able to run just fine. So I should, in theory, be able to run Dark Souls
Yeah,
1
no, fair
just
enough.
fine. It's just that it doesn't run very well for some reason, even with DS Fix. So I am looking forward to the remaster because I do want to complete the game. I think the furthest I got, or no, I know exactly where I stopped playing. I was in that one area where it's totally black and you literally can't see anything.
Oh, literally can't see anything. So that would be like the abyss sort of area, or unless you're talking about Blight Town potentially.
No, not Blighttown. It's this like rocky cavern looking place, and you can't see anything like at all aside from like your little circle around you until like some
Oh,
enemy pops out of
sorry,
nowhere.
it's Tomb of the Giants.
Yeah,
Tomb
that
of the
one.
Giants is what you're talking about. I'm
Yeah,
almost certain.
I
Skeletons everywhere, or at least some skeletons.
yeah I got lost in there and couldn't find my way back out, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I can't do it.
Yeah, that is a killer for a lot of people of the game, and I don't blame you at all. It is tough. That game is tough overall, and it is a complicated thing to actually analyze, right? I would say Dark Souls is incredibly complicated. There's so much to it, but do you find as a YouTuber that there is a shit ton of Dark Souls related videos that get super popular and just everywhere? Like they could be like 10 minutes long, and because I don't know if we sort of are in the same realm with this, but you do cover games, so I would have thought you'd have seen maybe this.
Popular, like, just in general, like any other game, or
Yeah, not like viral videos, but like everyone covers Dark Souls, and it oftentimes will be for about 10 minutes, and the title will be really enticing, like, should Dark Souls have an easy mode? Or what did Dark Souls get wrong? Or Dark Souls 2, is it really that bad? Like stuff like that, floating around all over the place.
I mean,
It's the reason why I made my series. I'm so fucking done with vapid Dark Souls videos that work for basically clicks, money, etc.
I mean, I've noticed them. I haven't really watched any of them just because I didn't really have any interest. I don't.
Honestly, I don't blame you. It's a pet peeve, I think. Anyway, I just
Yeah,
hate it myself.
I don't feel like I've seen so many that it's like abnormally way too much. I mean,
You know what it is? I probably watch one of them, and then YouTube's like, "Oh, here's the remaining ones on YouTube," and fills my recommended. So I just think they're everywhere.
oh yeah, I once watched. It was this video called. I don't remember exactly what the title is, but the basic idea is like this kid called his dad to explain to him that he's a brony. I don't know if you've
Okay.
seen that. It's a magical video, but after seeing that, I was recommended like 1,000 My Little Pony videos, and I was like, "Why are you doing this? I don't want this." I felt like I had to like
Yeah.
start watching murder videos to like get it off my screen.
Did you get to the point as well? Because I'm sure you did, considering I saw it and loads of people that have. But you watched a couple of Star Wars videos going over the plot, and then you were like, your recommended is filled with so many different people giving their take on the film.
Yes,
And it's just like Star Wars rant, Star Wars rant, Star Wars rant. I was just, it was funny, dude, because I watched all of them. Guess what? 99% of them said,
that it sucks.
and I didn't hear a thing from you. I'm assuming you said
I don't know. Tell me.
the film was terrible,
Oh, that's
god
what I
awful.
guessed anyway.
Yeah. So point being, this stupid narrative about how everybody's just being loud who hates the film. I was like, what community of people are you with that all like The Last Jedi? If you look at the I Hate Everything and a couple of other people's comment sections, you'll have the respectful disagree thing where they go, I appreciate your points and I understand where you're coming from, but I think the film was basically 100% dog shit. And so I'm sitting here like, so you disagree with him almost entirely. You must think his points up with much, right? But the comments are always so respectful, and it drives me nuts. You know, if
I feel
you'd said
like
something like,
I feel like on his video in particular, people probably were as respectful as possible just to disprove his idiotic statement that most of the people making these comments are like horrible, evil people issuing death threats.
yeah, I just because like if I was a mega no, if I was friends with I Hate Everything, right?
Yeah.
And me and him like got along really well, and then he came up with that video as a friend, I'd be like, dude, that's like one of you, like you've I don't think you've made a worse video. And then if he was like almost offended, I'd be like, no, let's just go through it because like I just really want to like, what are you doing? Because you're really good at this. Like, what's going on? And I would just want to draw with, and I know that it would come down to my opinion and stuff like that. And it's like nails on a chalkboard to me when it's like, in my opinion, the film is fun, so leave me alone. I'm just like, we're not talking. That's not.
Yeah. You know, it's sad because there's a lot of people I respect that really like the movie, and all the people that really like the movie have like the absolute worst arguments ever for why they like the movie. Like
Yeah,
just
what a coincidence, right?
it's like
Oh.
it's like, you know, I go ahead, you can like the movie. I mean, more power to you if you like this really terrible film that I feel like I wasted money on. But I mean, when your arguments all rely on ignoring every single criticism of the film, there's something wrong with your arguments.
I'd say so. I just I don't know. I feel like, you know, like how bad the film is. Like, I don't know about you, but like I feel like, yeah, if I was to have a conversation with I Hate Everything for about an hour, I feel like I could get through to him because there'd just be no way for him to go. But it's like I'm just sort of disheartened by the idea. It's like, but then again, maybe he's not an anomaly though. So many like higher up YouTubers are praising the film. And do you because I don't really buy into the whole they were paid thing. But like, what do you think about the whole, you know, idea that like there's some kind of conspiracy going on?
I mean, I have literally been told in some of my own videos that I was paid, and I'm like, who's paying me? I mean, I was told that, no joke, when I was at 2,000 subscribers, and I'm like, who the hell would be paying a guy with 2,000 subscribers who gets like maybe a couple hundred views per video? Who would be paying me for my opinion on something?
Um, Clearly, the people who either agree with your position or disagree with your uh, I don't know, man. It's like it doesn't make any sense. So you probably don't really see hold much water into that idea, right? Because like you can call me naive for it, but I just think that everybody is having trouble being critical because it's Star Wars.
I totally agree with that because, I mean, I had trouble being critical of The Force Awakens and Rogue One for that exact reason. It's that with
Actually, yeah, I can agree
time,
with that.
yeah, just with time, I was like, okay, I'm actually starting to listen to people's arguments and I'm actually really agreeing with all of them. And even though I still don't think The Force Awakens and Rogue One are especially bad movies, I mean, they're totally watchable and I think they're better than the prequel trilogy. There are a lot of problems with them. It's that this one in particular had so much wrong with it that even me, being a fan of Star Wars my entire life, could not imagine anything worse than what I had just witnessed for that 2.5 hours of visual torture.
Yeah, when I was making my critique videos, it felt like I was peeling back layers until just this dam broke open, and I was like, "Oh God, this film is like the best lesson in how to do everything wrong."
Yeah,
And it should be marveled for that in the future. Like the prequels can't be looked at that way because there's things that you can actually learn from it in terms of like some good ideas or some good little things you can do, and there's some genuinely good pieces of content in there. And then yeah, Rogue One and Last Jedi, sorry, Rogue One and Force Awakens, I feel the same way. But I completely agree with you. Yeah, it's just like there's no joking about this. There's no real opinion about this. Really, it's so bad. It's like that level of bad.
yeah, it's I can't it's unimaginable to me that a movie with that budget and so high profile and with so many great actors and a director that at least was somewhat respected for was it Looper?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with all that combined, you would think that it would be impossible for a movie to be like terrible like that. But I mean, that was it was only just above Justice League. And that movie was so incompetent that I can't even really call it a movie in good conscience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear the arguments for why, if you strip the Star Wars context from it, it somehow improves. Because I was actually going to say, do you know how that movie plays out if you haven't seen Star Wars? Like, if you thought about some of the scenes, how do you react to the scene with Luke and Yoda without having known about Star Wars? It is the most bizarre thing you've ever seen.
It would be like on an acid trip without the acid.
Yeah, you just be like, can somebody please tell me what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I
This
mean,
glowing midget just blew up a tree. I don't understand. Be
yeah,
like,
you can't separate it from the rest of the Star Wars movies and claim that that's somehow something that makes it better.
yeah, that's why I find it so funny.
Oh man, that movie's a gold mine for just bad movie making. I mean, when I was driving home that night, I literally couldn't even think of everything all at once because I had like there was so much wrong with it, and I just had like one new problem coming to me like every couple seconds or so, and I'm like, this is stupid. That's stupid too. That's stupid. And like even your
Yeah,
video,
it's a clusterfuck in there.
like I said the last time we talked, when you mentioned how Luke had his lightsaber in the apparition, even though Kylo knew he just destroyed that lightsaber. I didn't even think of that. I mean, it's like every single thing is wrong with that movie.
Honestly, dude, like my videos, despite being 5 hours, I've missed so much shit, and I get comments every day about like, why didn't you talk about this? And I'm like, I didn't realize that was going on too. There's so much shit in this film to get through. And you
Yeah,
know,
I
everyone's
mean,
like, oh, 5 hours on a film that's 2 hours plus. It's like, how sad are you? And I'm like, I don't think you've ever thought about how long it takes to read out these plot holes and then dissect them as to why they're bad.
yeah,
It's like It's like the fucking just walking around the world once. Do that, and I think you might actually be able to get through every problem the film has.
Yeah, it's either you make all of your opinions really well thought out and really well written, and people will say, "Oh, too long. You're wasting your life." But then, if you
The
do
thing
it,
is, I
if
don't make anything short, so I don't mind. I think my shortest like full on production video is something like 30 minutes, but it's a part of 14 parts.
well, even if you
So the only breakage there is the fact that you can swallow it in pieces. Like, is no, I have super long shit. So that criticism to me is just like, well, why are you even giving my stuff a chance? That's my whole shtick.
well, if it's not criticizing you for that, if you make it short and sweet, then they'll criticize you for not going too in depth with it.
Exploring shit, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So we just go on and do whatever the hell we want anyway, right?
Yeah, Last Jedi sucked, and you're wrong if you liked it. Sorry.
I forgive people for liking it, obviously, but fucking hell, I don't see any reasonable argument for like a smidgen of quality within that film. It's just like it comes across as alien to me. The concept. I'm just like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I mean, the visuals were good and the music was good, and that was it. Like, nothing else about it was good on any level. And even then, some of the visuals were kind of shit. Like, the whole space Vegas, that whole entire plot point was just bad.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the what is she that creature that's like an opera singer or some shit?
Oh my god. I felt like I was watching Attack of the Clones again. And I was like, I don't want to
Yep,
be
yep.
watching
I
Attack of the
agree.
Clones again. Like, this whole trilogy right now is supposed to cover up the fact that the prequels ever happened, and you're making me think of the prequels again. Don't do that.
But yeah, because I was gonna say like that's pretty solid with Last Jedi and Captain America. I'm gonna probably square off my podcast, but obviously you can keep going if that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Thanks for having me on.
I have no idea what you just said.
I said
I'm
that's
assuming you said okay. Did you say okay?
I said that's fine, and thank you for having me on.
There we go. Okay, I heard that. Thank you. Yeah. So
I don't know what in the
we're
world
just
is.
gonna end it there, and hopefully, I don't have an outro for my podcast, so there you go. That's it. See you next time, folks.
Goodbye.
And there you go. So I was just gonna say, like, obviously that I'll be editing that locally, and it'll go out probably like 2 months from now because I've got a podcast planned before it, and I've got to get other videos out between them. So no worries. But obviously, if anyone wanted to catch it, you've got it right here, so it's all fine.
Yeah. I did notice during Audacity, while I was recording anyway, um, I guess there was a setting in Discord that's been messing with the audio levels on my mic, and it keeps auto adjusting. So maybe you'll be able to tweak that a bit when I send you the files. But if not, I can try and send you the file of the stream instead, and maybe you can just rip the
Oh
audio from
yeah,
there.
yeah. I could probably just do that in general. I'm pretty sure you're pretty high quality on your stream, aren't you? Like it comes through pretty much as it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, my voice might be a bit louder. I tried to tweak that a bit, but it's a little hard to tell.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Honestly, I've got your audio. If that fails, I've got the YouTube video. I can make it work.
All right, yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, so thanks.
All right, well, 2.5 hours. Just yeah.
Oh man, I don't know what you just said other than 2.5 hours.
Two,
Keeps fucking up for me.
we, I realized we have spent almost as much time talking about our different opinions of Civil War as Civil War lasts on its own. And then we finished off with, well, obviously, talking about why The Last Jedi is a bad movie.
I feel like, dude, when people find out that me and you've gone together, they're gonna want to hear us at least talk a bit about Star Wars because it's like these are the guys who had the two top viral videos. I think it was like there's probably someone who beat mine, but I'm pretty sure yours was the top viral video for Star Wars rants. So it's like, why would they talk about anything else?
I feel like there's a couple that were bigger than mine. I'm sure there were. I was really
Um,
surprised by the fact that I don't remember. I don't know
because
if his is bigger now, but I was at some point uh my video had more views than YMS's video, which I was like, what the fuck? That's not right.
Oh, well, what I
It's
will
probably
say is
changed.
like I don't even. This sounds really biased. I don't even count YMS's video because it's so shit. It's like he put that together in like 6 minutes of like him going, the film's alright. There's a couple things wrong with it. People are blowing it up. Here's the trailer footage in the background. I'm out. Like Angry Joe's one I don't count, even though it got more views than yours because it's top 10 reasons why The Last Jedi suck. And then it's like 27 meandering reasons where they're trying to talk it through it. And it's like the most low quality shit ever, while yours was, I mean, I'm assuming it was scripted. Did you script it?
Yeah, if this stream and our last conversation is any indication, I pretty much need to script out everything because I mean I'm sure I probably missed 1,000 things during the conversation about Civil War
Oh,
that I
well,
probably could have brought up, but
I'm I'm the same, man. I'm way worse without a script. But I feel like that's just normal. Like who's amazing without a script, you know? Who nails it without a script?
not many people. But yeah, I'd script out all of my videos aside from my streams, obviously, because otherwise I would be making very bad videos. I already make bad videos,
You
but
say that, but so
worse.
many people are doing just that.
Oh yeah, DSP gaming is still a thing, so I mean,
Yeah. So I was gonna say as well that the shocking part for me was that I saw Armored Skeptic's video and I kind of liked it. Though, have you seen that one
no, I
for Last
didn't.
Jedi?
No, I mean, I used to watch Armored Skeptic, but I don't know if it's changed. Last.
I can say the same for you. I unsubbed from him over a year ago. I really lost interest in him once he started using his face more and his ego exploded. I couldn't take it.
I
But
stopped
I checked
watching
out a lot of people's
him.
views on it. And I was like, I'm a skeptic. Yeah, sure, I'll check out his Last Jedi one. And I thought it was pretty good. Like it's well edited. There's a couple of funny jokes in there as well as some decent criticism of how bad the film is. Except this weird part where him and Chew on Head basically associate everything in the Last Jedi with like anime. And they
Uh,
misunderstood. You know the line where he says, "See you around, kid." You know, and it's in reference to Han Solo.
yeah. Uh,
I'm assuming you said yes.
yes, yes, I do. Man, my
Yes,
Discord is weird
they
today.
said they said that they said that that was like in reference to the whole teleports behind you, too late, kiddo, sort of thing, and they were convinced it was an anime reference.
Why would that be an anime
And it was
ref?
like,
What? That doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
and I remember watching being like, what the fuck did I just listen to? And I checked the comment section. Everyone was like, why the fuck do they think that was anime? You can still see it. The video's still up. It's the most bizarre thing ever. But the video was still pretty good, and yet like hours blew past it, and I was like, wow, I blew past Armored Skeptic. It's like that feels kind of like an achievement.
Yeah, it's strange. I just looked at the YMS video. I'm like over twice as many views, and that's insane to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, yeah, I stopped watching Shiwan Head Armored Skeptic. I think like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, because he like uploaded one video every 3 months, and I was like, okay, you make good content, but I'm not really gonna. It's not good enough for me to wait 3 months for it. There's only a couple. There's only a couple YouTubers that I'll do
I was
that.
gonna say,
That's
man, there are some people I'll wait forever for.
I mean,
Like it
yeah.
depends how
I
good the
mean,
content is.
I'll wait for ER's videos and Lyle McDouchebag's videos. That's
Hmm.
pretty much it. I hate everything. I mean, he doesn't really take as long as them, but does take a little bit of a longer time generally.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand.
But there's very few
Um,
people I'll actually do that for, and they have to make really good content for me to like it.
I mean, because I was about to say, I'm pretty sure you subbed to me. You realize I take like a million years to put out my series, and sometimes they're not even being a topic you're gonna want to see. Like it could be a game you've never heard of.
Oh well, time to unsubscribe then.
I don't blame you. I'm a very niche thing. But Star Wars I'm happy to cover, so at least I'll satisfy my audience for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you made some pretty good videos. I haven't seen all of them. I've only seen your first and your Last Jedi videos. Um, but even when after I put up my review and I saw your first video, I there was like 4 or 5 times throughout the video where I was like, man, why didn't I say that? Felt like really stupid. So much that
Um,
so wrong with that movie.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It's like you can have that perspective. Like, why did I say that? But it's like you'll be saying that until you're dead. It's like it just keeps going. There's gonna be something new someone finds. This is why I'm convinced the film will not age well because it's just like it's impossible.
Man,
Um,
it's crazy to me because Ryan Johnson is signed on for a new Star Wars trilogy by
yeah,
himself.
dude, that's arguably terrifying as a concept that we'll have to see three of his films. Well, you don't have to, obviously, but the idea alone, it's like, why does the world have to suffer this?
I
It's like, why
mean,
did you force this to happen?
I can only hope that Disney like gets any level of common sense and says, maybe we should not do that because that's a horrible idea. But I don't feel like Disney is smart enough to get it through their heads that Ryan Johnson made a really horrible fucking movie. And we're going to have to suffer through at least one or two until he's inevitably canceled for being a really inept director and writer. Ryan Johnson
Yeah,
movies.
because this is the thing, man. As much as it would be like Disney was satisfied with this script, my response to that probably every single time would be they're concerned with him making money, and he makes less money with this film. Full stop. That's just the way it is because he's killed a huge part of the fan base, as well as people aren't going to be buying this when it comes out. They're not going to be re-seeing it in the cinema, even though a bunch of idiots did just because they wanted to prove that like you gotta watch it multiple times, otherwise you can't fucking comment on it 'cause you have to see it multiple times to understand it. Like I Hate Everything said it was his third watch that solidified his perspective that it was a good movie. Just to me is just like
They
punch
say
in the face.
that
But
they say that as though
the
it has the depth of Blade Runner or 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like,
yeah,
no.
it's like fuck off. No, it doesn't. It's ridiculous.
I
It's
mean,
so simple. What is there that you missed in the first time around? Everything is relatively shallow. There's nothing in depth about it.
there's
Well, I
not
guess people would
one.
argue the themes.
Oh, the
The
themes.
themes.
Yeah, the theme of
Always with the
we
themes, man.
don't we don't win by fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. By the
You
way,
know,
the laser's shooting the things we love.
if ever I watch the film again, I'm gonna have to be drunk, and I'm just gonna that's gonna be the part I look forward to. It's the peak of the film's
I might
incompetence. It's just like,
I
yes,
I wouldn't want to watch the whole thing, so I think I'm just gonna like I'm sure someone's going to put that scene on YouTube and I'll just watch that one scene over and over and over again cuz that's so funny in just all the wrong ways. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you'd see in a Tommy Wiseau movie, honestly.
yeah, yeah, and you would probably have an argument for why it like works on some level, but you know that they actually thought the argument on its own worked. Like Ryan Johnson was like, she just saved what she loved and prevented him from attacking what he hates, which is much better as an idea. And they're like, yeah, Ryan, we're just setting up the scene in the background where the resistance is destroyed. Is that cool? And he's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
I I wonder if there was like anyone working like editing the movie and developing the CGI and all that, and they just like had to stop for a few minutes and say to themselves, "This fucking sucks." I mean, I can't imagine that there could be no one in that crew that
Oh,
made that
someone just
movie.
said, wait 5 years, stop shoveling shit out. I was just thinking to myself, like, doesn't matter how long they wait, man. Ryan Johnson had potentially more than 2 years, because I believe he started writing his script when The Force Awakens began filming. That's what he said. So think how early that is. And he went up with his first draft. Disney approved his first draft. He didn't even redraft it, and that's what the film. It's like I don't think it matters how much time you give these people. They just think like, yeah, I'm a genius. We'll go with this. You've heard the part where he said he doesn't regret a single decision, right? And he wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Ryan. I'm so glad that you stick behind your really awful ideas. I mean,
It's like, wow, Ryan, I wish I could be like you, because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of things I'd like to change in my videos. Work I make where I'm like, oh, I kind of fucked up there, or I could have changed that. But like, no, Ryan has his vision nailed. Everything he wanted done was done perfectly. It's like, how cool would it be to be that guy?
yeah, I'd love to be like that because there's always something in my, well, maybe not always, but a lot of the times there is something in one of my videos that I didn't explain enough that someone is going to get mad about. Like my Evil Within 2 video that I came out with yesterday.
Hmm.
One of the points I mentioned was that I wasn't a big fan of the matches in the first game because I thought they were kind of dumb and not really useful.
Yeah.
I when for me, I don't like to play games on their highest difficulty. I mean, I'll play Dark Souls because, I mean, the whole point is that it's hard. But
Hmm.
generally, if it's a story focused game like The Evil Within, I don't like to play it on its highest difficulty. I will because achievement, and that's pretty. That's basically it. But I'll speed run it, and that's what I did with The Evil Within. I speed ran pretty much that entire thing.
Okay.
So the matches really didn't come in handy as much as I'm sure some people that like actually took their time on the highest difficulty did. But I didn't say that. So I had several people in the comments that were like, "You're just a bullshit liar for saying that you didn't use the matches." And I was like, "Okay, sure." There's always something.
Do you know how I avoid that horrible circumstance? I make like 20-hour-long videos, so then no one can actually say you missed that thing. I'll be like, no, I didn't. It's
Yeah.
at hour 13 minute 56. It's in the top right corner. That's where I put it.
Yeah, there's always something I don't think to put in my scripts. I mean, like I said with my Last Jedi video, there's innumerable things that I could have talked about that I didn't
Yeah,
remember.
I think you just needed to hit the Luke. The Luke part is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, that's the big part that I had such a huge problem with, especially him
It's
going up and
it'll tell you
killing.
a lot about the person enjoyment of the film because that's like the first thing you have to talk about. If someone says like, "Oh, they love the way they took Luke," it's like, yeah, we can't have a good discussion about this film. It's over already. Like we're done.
I mean, just I mean, the first thing we see him do is go up to that fucking whatever the hell that alien was with like testicle
Yeah.
breasts. He milks them and then drinks it right there. Like, I watched that
Oh,
and I was like
um,
shell shocked by what's happening.
someone raged at me on my comment section for why Luke throwing the lightsaber was perfect. All right, they used the word perfect, and they were frustrated that I didn't understand these things. One of their things was that what do you think Luke's gonna do with a lightsaber that's killed younglings? And I was like, he
What?
what?
um. Oh my god.
Just it's like you're stunned. I was stunned reading it. I was just like, I can't respond to that.
I
I
can't. I
don't know
can't
what to do
even.
with that.
I can't even formulate anything in my brain that comes close to. I. What the hell? What the hell? What is that? I. You're dumb.
I love the idea, by the way, that Luke found a book that goes through all of this, and there's just this little footnote that's like, and Anakin used his famed lightsaber to slice Padawan Jimmy, Padawan Sarah, Padawan, and Luke's reading through it like, like this fucking lightsaber. I can't
Yeah.
believe it.
Wonderful. Speaking of which, what happened to his green lightsaber?
No one knows. No one cares. Ryan forgot he had a green lightsaber. Probably no, he didn't because it's in the memory, but it's not anywhere else. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Kylo Ren just decided, hey, this one guy tried to kill me, so I'm going to proceed to burn down hundreds of other Jedi that had nothing to do with him, as well as his temple, and try to kill him too. You know, it's real fun.
Oh, that film.
There's just nothing good about it. Like literally nothing.
Because I actually agree with I hate everything. The whole polarizing thing, where a piece of content comes out and you have to pick love or hate most of the time, and it's frustrating. 'Cause it's like we're not gonna have any kind of scale if it's either this the binary choice. And so he brings that in about this film, and I was just like, yeah, there are going to be films that are terrible and are amazing. This is one of those ones. Like, it does happen.
Yeah, only it's not amazing. It's like objectively not a good film. And I know people like don't like it
Yeah,
when I
and
say the word objectively, but objectively it is not a good film at
I
all.
mean, because my channel's based around this, I just feel like you know what you're thinking of when you say it, don't you? All of the writing mechanics, how everything comes together in movies, as well as the respect to the law. You know it's objectively bad. The only problem is people who haven't heard your arguments for it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every single problem I had with Civil War in our discussion with it, I know is subjective. And I know that people like the movie. And I understand why they like the movie. It's just like my subjective opinions are the reason why I didn't like it. But objectively, I don't think it's a bad movie. But objectively, The Last Jedi is. There's really nothing subjective about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was gonna say like it's the whole concept I said earlier is just alien to me. You can come to another conclusion, and me and you've put so much work into these videos, and it's just not going to matter to those who love it. And that's the human race, I suppose. Like, I guess I shouldn't complain because that's just inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when when the Han Solo movie turns out to suck because it really does not have a snowball's chance in fuck of being good, to be perfectly honest.
Hmm.
When it sucks and it's like 99.9% guaranteed, I hope that people will at least see that movie and they'll be like, maybe we should stop with the Star Wars thing.
Maybe we should, because this is the thing. They cost them too much money. So I want a universe. I want it to happen, man, where they say, okay, episode 8 didn't happen. Fine, it didn't happen. We're retconning it, and we're gonna do the film again. Here's a different director and writer. We're gonna fix it up. Because that's just so insane to think about. Like, it's such a huge Disney saying, yes, we fucked up. So all the people who love the film are fucked. In terms of an argument, it's like Disney think it's terrible and they're retconning it. How much more do you need? Like, uh, but it's just not going to happen because Disney. That's such an embarrassment, Like Disney could never do that.
Yeah, I mean, if the Han Solo movie sucks and people like it, even though I think there's like news stories out that Disney has already wrote it off as not going to be a good movie. I mean, before the movie's even out, I don't know how you could possibly make an argument if that movie does turn out to suck.
Sorry, you lagged out a bit there. I don't know if you asked me something.
No, I didn't.
No, okay. Just clarifying. I don't want to be a rude faggot.
No, no,
Um,
I don't. I gotta figure out what's wrong with Discord. I've never had this problem before.
yeah, because like I said, from my perspective, it sounds like a connection thing because you get in the robot voice and then you get like a blank. But the thing is, you're doing fine on your end with your stream, so I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it said that my stream status is good the whole time, and like I said, I made sure to check my internet connection before we did this, and it said it was fine. So I don't know what in the world's going on. I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, yeah, I was gonna say I'm probably gonna go back to my other channel for a bit at this point, so I'm happy to wrap up if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was a good discussion, and I'm sure all the
I
people that
mean,
replied to that comment and were like, "You really are gonna fight, aren't you?"
they can see us fight. We totally had a fight,
We,
but it's what I call a civil discussion about civil war. It's great on so many levels instead of barking at each other, which is probably what people like to see, but it's just not what you get from me. As much as I'm a dick in a lot of my videos, it's almost like I'm provocative in my videos. But if I actually get any of these people to sit down with me, I will be absolutely nice to them because I
yeah,
just want to have a chat. That's all.
yeah. I don't like to be mean to people unless they're dumb.
Unless they like the Last Jedi, I don't know.
Yeah, then I'll be mean to you because you're not smart. All
Yeah, I
right.
was gonna say thanks for actually talking to me because you had no reason to really.
Yeah, yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And maybe we'll do something again in the future.
Yeah, Jurassic World 2. Why the movie is not good.
Why it's not great.
Why
We'll go
Jurassic
that.
Park should have
You wanna-
ended after the first movie.
it's like you can't cancel out all of them. I like somebody who's like, just stop it, go to sleep. Fine, we'll take care of this.
Yeah, I mean, they've only gotten progressively worse every single year.
Did
Well,
you? I thought you said you liked the third one more than the second one. Was that someone else?
I mean, I kind of equally didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there were good elements to
I'd have to
them,
watch
but
them again. I just know that they're not the first one. That's all. They're just
yeah,
not the first
the
one.
first one is like the only one that's actually worth caring about. The second and third, I mean, they're bad movies. I don't think
Which
one's
is
necessarily worse than the other because I think they're both pretty equally stupid.
It's a funny comparison, by the way, because it's like if a bad Jurassic Park film comes out, it's like, oh yeah, that's a history they're butchering. It's already dead. But with Star Wars, it was like, no, there was something left to butcher, and they took care of it.
Yeah, fun. Why are there so many bad movies? I don't want to waste my money on bad movies. I want good
Well,
movies.
I did catch. I don't mean to keep keep going with this, but it's just funny. I saw your video on things I don't hate. I liked your intro. You're like, everybody thinks I hate everything. I was like, I could empathize with that. It's just like, you know, a lot of the shit where you said it's so much easier and more entertaining to rip into things instead of gushing over stuff, because it comes across as awkward sometimes when you're just like, this is amazing because of this and this is amazing. People are just like, okay.
Yeah, it's not easy to be funny and make jokes about something you like.
Yeah.
And like that's the only appeal of my channel, is that I like make fun of things and people think it's funny. I can't be funny when I'm talking about something I like. I wasn't really I mean, there was a couple things with my Evil Within 2 video that I was able to make fun of because it's not a perfect game, and there were things that definitely should have been made fun of. But most of the time, I mean, if I was to make a Titanfall 2 video, I could not possibly make anything funny about it. So I focus on negative stuff because that's more entertaining. But people think that because I only focus on negative stuff that I literally hate everything.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because you know, if I pick particular movies to cover, it's like I don't expect them to be bad, but they could be, and if they are, so be it. It never feels like you're doing this on purpose, you know? It's just like, this is just the result of the planet doing this.
the only time, aside from watching The Room, that I ever went into a movie theater expecting it to be bad was with, did you see Valerian?
No, but I've heard stuff.
Well, if you watch any trailers of it and you come to the same conclusion as I did, that it looks really, really bad, rest assured it's really, really bad. But I went into it knowing it was going to be bad, and I was thoroughly entertained by how really, really bad it was.
Uh-huh.
I can like take a bad movie if I know going in that it's going to be bad, but if I go into The Last Jedi and I'm like, wow, this movie really sucks even though I wanted it to be good, that's not fun. That's really not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm always trying to be honest with people. They'll never believe me with my videos, but genuinely, I wanted The Last Jedi to be a lot of fun and well written, and just a romp with Luke Skywalker and all the new characters.
Yeah,
You know, I'm willing to forgive a lot if they just made something out of it.
I had a guy just yesterday tell me on Twitter that my mind was made up before I went to go see the movie, and I was like, no, I was actually really excited for this movie. It's the first Star Wars movie I watched on day one.
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah. But, you know, that's just people, and they're really, really bad arguments.
Too true, man. Too true. Yeah, so I'll probably leave it there, and I'm totally up for, you know, just chatting with you again some other time if ever you're free.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime, I'm up for it. Thanks for having me on again.
And vice versa, sir, and for being so friendly and civil. I really appreciate it, and good luck with your future endeavors, whatever they may be.
Yeah. Knowing my channel, it's probably not going to be good. But I'll have fun.
Sure it will be. Fantastic. But yeah, I gotta go. So goodbye, and you know, thanks for hanging out.
Yep. See you around.